Hear me. Just gonna play with the volume just a little bit. Welcome along, if not, or if so rather. I need to change the title, which I totally forgot to do. I'll do that right now. Which I totally forgot to do. And that's me. I'll do that right now. Which I totally forgot to do. And that's me. I'll do that right now. Okay. So, welcome to the stream. Group C will be on this stream. I should probably put that in the title as well, which I will do right now. And we're going to be joined by Andreas G, I believe, today, which will be interesting. I haven't cast with him before. So the tournament, it's a 12-player tournament. 4 rounds of regular play and then a final round that is seeded. So we'll be going for probably 3 hours or so, as per usual. So hopefully we'll get Andreas in here quite soon. So, not that one, it's that one. Oh, hang on, that's the wrong map. It needs to be on series. Sorry, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me alright. I did check my mic output. It seems to be working. So I think this is the first time, other than like the April Fool's tournament, that we've actually done a tournament that is not just on one celestial body. We've got round 1 on series this for this tournament. Round 2 is going to be on IO. Round 3, 4, and 5 all on Mars. And it's definitely the first sort of, I'm going to say official, but not really official, the first like regular tournament that we've done with the Jupiter's Forge expansion. Rahi, thank you for telling me the stream sounds okay. The Pastafarian, the meme that just won't die. And nor should it die, it's pretty fun. So first game we're going to be having Von Eagle, Peasant, 2D Back, and Copper Wire. So obviously 2D Back and Peasant are players that we know pretty well. The other two not quite so much. Be interesting to see how they fare. One or two of you that are in chat, maybe one or two of you that are in the game as well, can hang around just on the stream just while Andreas and I sort out our levels, just to make sure that the audio levels are about right for the two of us. I think last time we had some issues on that front. Rahi is in fact eating ramen at the moment. Good to know. Guess in Korea that's a pretty regular occurrence. When I was in Japan I basically ate nothing but ramen. It's pretty delicious. No pasta or noodles? What kind of pastafarian are you, peasant? That's not really good enough. So no sign of Andreas, and I'm hoping that he is in fact here. Oh, cup noodles from Japan. That's pretty good. There are many things I miss about being in Japan, but ramen and noodles and the food in general is definitely among the biggest. Yeah, we've got 3 of our players in the lobby, so fairly soon, hopefully, we'll be alright.
Hello.
Oh, Yerand, hi. How you doing? Are you subbing in for Andreas?
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Okay. Cool. In which case, welcome.
Oh.
The stream is on. I don't know if you know, but
Yeah, I'm streaming too. Just
okay,
in case.
great. Yeah, cool. Our levels, I don't know. Hopefully they are okay, but hopefully we can get a couple of our viewers to verify that they are okay.
I'm sure someone will yell at us.
Yeah. Well, the last time I did it with Hexapus, I think it was the middle of game 3 when people started saying in chat that. Hexapus was like a quarter of the volume that I was, so hoping to
That's their problem, obviously.
yeah, hoping to avoid a repeat.
Yeah, just saying things because people probably want to.
Yeah, peasants just asked you to talk some more.
Blah,
So
hello.
yeah,
It's been a while.
it's been a while. Yeah, we had the.
It's actually been a long time. I kind of fell out of Off-World for a while, so I have no idea how anything works anymore.
I have a little bit of an idea. I've not been playing much the last couple of weeks, or at all, in fact, the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, you know, work gets busy. That's the sort of thing that happens quite regularly. So something's got to give, and Off-World was it. But no, they sound pretty level. Yeah. Okay. So we're good on levels. That's really good. But yeah, this is a slightly strange tournament. We've got 1 game on Ceres, 1 game on Io, and then 3 games on Mars to finish. So we're going to get the full mix of off-world content today.
It sounds like a perfect format, if you ask me. Just an all-around everything.
So we're just waiting on Mr. Cubes, who did join, but then left.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to see some of these names. Some pretty darn old, some new that I haven't really encountered at all yet.
Yeah, we've got we've got Peasant and Tootie back, who we know and love, and Von Eagle and Mr. Cubes we don't know, but
that's actually not true because Mr. Cubes started around the same time I did, so I did know him reasonably well.
Oh, yep. I had no idea. What are you expecting from Mr. Cubes? Do you have any idea?
Not really, because he was playing a lot when he started, and then he kind of stopped, and then he like rarely, occasionally pops in.
And when are we talking here? Are we talking? Presumably, we're talking deep back in early access.
2015.
Okay, yeah, so like a long time.
June, May, something like that.
Okay, so more than 2 years ago. And Off-World looked very different to what it does now. settings have changed, haven't they? Do
Yeah,
I need to- so the standard rules are now
it includes real map. It seems like.
include use real maps. Yeah, we don't want that. So standard rules are now the same as the multiplayer settings. Is that right? Do you happen to know? It looks like it anyway.
Second?
The standard rules, because the standard rules used to be the sort of the non-reveal
So
map rules.
It says that active rules, advanced sabotage, reveal map, random
Yeah.
prices, stop delay.
So we've got everything. Yeah. Ready when everyone else is. I don't know, I should probably check out other streams just to make sure we're not jumping the gun by too much. So it's blues and let's go to Phil's stream. So they're all in lobby in group A. In group B, they are also all in lobby. So I think we're basically ready to go.
One thing though, that there's a map seed.
Ah,
we
there
don't
is
see.
a map seed. Where is the map seed? Let me see if I can find the map seed. Ah, there's the map
It's
seed.
3795.
Yeah, thank you. Don't know whether we need to wait for... I'm just going to text Polina. Or message Polina, rather.
I have a feeling that they have started.
Ah, Blues has started, yeah,
Haven't
okay.
seen-
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen any lobbies anymore. They were there a while ago.
Let's go. Alright, a very warm welcome indeed to this Casuals tournament, the June the 3rd Casuals tournament for Off-World Trading Company. It's a multi-planet or multi-celestial body tournament across Ceres, Io and Mars. This game is on Ceres, it's round 1, and it is between our 4 combatants, Peasant, Mr. Cubed, Von Eagle, and 2D Back. And joining me for this cast for the first time, I don't think we've cast together before, is Yerand.
Hello, hello.
So what do you make of this map? There seems to be quite a bit of water for a series map in the west, at least.
Quite a lot of water in general for a series map. But yeah, this is I expect all people to pound in the west. There's really none.
I
There's
would
really
think so.
nothing that can pull you through upgrades in the east.
And I'm not even slightly surprised that Peasant is the first to go into the western patch of Iron and Water with the Scientist. Steel, of course, starting very high indeed, has that water as well nearby, has that carbon nearby too, and lots to recommend Peasant spot in the west. 2D Back as well, thinking that the west is for him, going Scavenger instead, so no resource diminishing for him. But a little bit awkward perhaps with some of that aluminium. It's not really around where he is at the moment. Mr. Cubes goes in the southwest, has the steel, it's the remote steel, which is going to be a little bit awkward. There are pirates in the black market, and Von Eagle going with the 2 HQ nomadic, of course. That's the new nomadic faction. That's what they get to do. You get to put down 2 different HQs. Has the silicon nearby and also has the aluminium as well. But Peasant and 2D back, as you would expect, first to HQ2.
I'd say that their farms seem to be the most solid. I'm a little bit suspicious about the Mr. Cubes and Von Eagle.
Yeah, I mean, just talk about Mr. Cubes for a second. I think it's just a little bit awkward because he doesn't have any water nearby. He's going to have to fight Peasant for what there is in the north, and all he's got is that remote steel, and it's just kind of a little bit awkward. He's got the uranium, so he'll be able to maybe make some power, but that's pretty much it. That's all he can do with that.
Yeah, notice the all of the ice is in the north, and really there's so little of it.
Yeah, there's
so
not
that's
very much
not
at
an
all.
option either.
Yeah, Von Eagle can do that at least for his water, but he's got some other problems. He's not really anywhere near a lot. He's got the aluminium and the silicon, which I guess is pretty much all he needs as a nomadic to at least get through his upgrades. But in terms of carbon, there's not very much. In terms of, obviously, iron, he doesn't necessarily need. But there isn't a lot of water, and that he's going to put some solar panels down as well. So I wonder if we're going to see a quick patent lab out of Von Eagle and get himself that liquid batteries just as soon as he can. It's been really nice for him with those solar panels and with the ice as well.
Yeah, I'm a little bit suspicious about his farms, but actually it might just work out because he has the water, he has the aluminium, he has the power now, and his silicon tiles are pretty bad, but then again he's a nomad, so he can make good use of those return claims to get rid of those tiles once they diminish.
Yeah, that's very true indeed. And of course, something we didn't mention before the start of this game is that the new expansion has, of course, introduced those 2 new HQs, the Nomads and the Elites, but you only get to pick 4 out of the 6, or you only get to pick from 4 out of the 6, so no Expansive and no Elite on this map. So if you're wondering why you're not seeing any Expansive, then perhaps, well, then that is the reason. The claim comes down. Was that just a... what was that? I actually don't know. I can't see which tile that was for Von Eagle.
I think it was just a claim. So.
Oh, it was just a claim. Yeah, sorry. So
yeah, he put up an extra solar panel there.
Yeah, he's this power situation is interesting. He's committed very heavily into power. Got the 3 solar panels down. Peasant also has 2 nuclear plants down. He's almost paid through all of his debt. He's just got another couple of thousand. So he probably is going to be able to make a little bit of power money, but I wonder if that was worth, and he's got those 2 goons as well, so he's paid a lot to put those nuclear plants down. Not necessarily going to get a huge amount of benefit from it.
Of course, the problem with the Eagle winning that claim is that he was already starting to make power money, and now that he paid another 24k for that claim, he just went back to square one.
Yeah, a lot of money as well, 24,000, and at least some of it was cash. He's got the solar panels completely shut down now, so probably what he should do is rotate them into something else altogether. You can do that with a circuit overload. It's not a freeze as such, it just stops you making any power. So there could be other things.
I would consider just making water or something.
Yep, I tend to agree. Put solar condensers down.
See, just as a little finesse move, instead of building these 2 new solar condensers, you replace the overloaded ones and then build 2 solar panels, something like that.
Yep, I think that's completely fair enough. Not really a clear leader at this point. 2D back has the most cash, so maybe it's him. He's gone into that life support. He's first to HQ4 as the scavenger, which you would kind of expect, but at the same time, there's plenty of reasons to think that perhaps in the late game he's going to have some advantages. He's got those 2 carbon tiles, or the 1 carbon tile rather, which is really nice. He did get the other one nuked out, so he's working off a high and a trace at the moment, but still that's 3 carbon a second, just over 3 carbon a second, which is going to do quite well for him to get him through those upgrades quite quickly. Peasant, though, with the scientific patent lab going down, and I wonder what he's thinking right here. I wonder if he's going to be first into that liquid battery situation. It isn't all that good for him. He's not really on any ice, but I wonder what he's going to do with that patent lab.
Honestly, just slum drilling, so you can keep up the nuclear plants and add up a whole bunch of life support for.
Yeah, I guess that
Yeah.
does make those nuclear plants completely sustainable. He can, with those dual tiles, he can just get the adjacency for nuclear plants and get the uranium for free as well as the water on both of them. 2D back winning the mule auction. He's going to get himself some iron, which actually is going to be quite good. Nobody's in that iron market, so that's going to be a nice amount of cash for him. You get 2 mules now, of course, not just the one. So that's going to be a definite net profit for 2D back, getting that iron in.
2D back getting a bunch of nukes on his carbon should make his transition to HQ level 5 quite a difficult one.
And Peasant, as you predicted, going for that slant drilling, but that's a lot of money that he's spending on that. It's nearly 15,000, I think, that he paid for it. It's 17,000 at these prices, but he won't quite have paid these prices for those chems, but even so, it's a lot of money. And he is now falling quite significantly behind 2D back in particular, who is HQ4 and has a bunch of money in food, which it seems, I mean, nobody else is in any food at all. He's got that market completely to himself, and he's absolutely making hay with it right now. Those farms, very, very profitable indeed. 150 per tile, and that's putting him to quite a significant lead. And yeah, he actually blows up Von Eagle's farm in the east there. So it's going to be expensive for Von Eagle to replace with that glass price.
I think I really like the position in which both scientists are at this point. They're getting all the crucial patents that they need. Hasn't got slam drilling. Mr. Cubes is about to get teleportation. The problem is they're kind of behind it. I feel like 2D back is just going to surge ahead in the meantime, to a point where when even if they get all they need, it's going to be really hard for them to catch up to him.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm actually surprised that 2D back went for Von Eagle's farms instead of Peasant's farms, because Peasant just put a bunch down as well. And yeah, there goes another EMP, so he actually had one saved up as well. The return EMP comes down from Mr. Cubes onto mainly the reactors, but also to some extent the farms as well. And something else we should note, of course, scientists used to get black market protection. They used to get the 50% reduced or the halved duration freezes. They don't get that anymore, so that's going to be 100 seconds, the full 100 seconds for that farm of peasants is going to be turned off.
That's a change that had been discussed for a long time, and apparently Soren finally decided that it's something they want to try.
Yep, well I think with the changes...
Hasn't really been discussed on their side.
Yeah, with the changes to the ice, that really makes that really made it for a while, as that scientists were really quite overbearing in terms of the overall metagame. So something had to be done, and Soren decided that that was the thing that he wanted to do most of all. But 2D back again, protecting that food market. He's putting down a 4th farm, in fact, and he is now HQ5 as well. He's in that glass, and really is in a very strong position for the rest of this game. I'd like to see perhaps a couple more advanced buildings. That's the only thing that he's really missing right now. Doesn't have a pattern lab, doesn't have the optimization center, which Peasant does, and he's getting to work on those food optimizations, which obviously is going to be really good for him, and a little bit of power as well.
It's exactly what I was thinking about, actually. He's ahead. He's an HQ head of everybody. He's defending his own stock, but he's not investing into advanced buildings. Like, sure, the scientists are behind, but they have this late game advantage that they're building up to, and 2D back really needs to do something to secure his advantage.
Yep, absolutely, and he is slowly but surely getting his carbon nuked out as well. Doesn't have any goons on his carbon. He already got the one knockdown to trace. It's now a solar panel. He got his high knocked down to a low. So it really is a little bit awkward for 2D back. He's got 3 carbon a second coming in, and that's really difficult for him if he wants to go ahead and make chems or something like that. It makes it not particularly profitable for him to do that. So we'll see how he chooses to handle that. And in fact, he's getting rid of another one of his Was that a... No, it wasn't even nuked out, so that was a low that he's getting rid of in favour of a solar panel, which is a really interesting decision. Not sure I necessarily agree with it.
Power is as big a problem as carbon is to him.
That's true, it is, but you can put solar panels anywhere, you can't put carbon quarries anywhere. Obviously feels as though he's got just about enough for now, as that particular EMP gets caught by Von Eagle. So I wonder if that's going to... And again, another double nuke, in fact, from Von Eagle onto 2D back, and 2D back now is only working off trace carbon tiles. And 0.75 per second is not a whole lot of carbon, and he's not really going to be able to do very much with it. I wonder what his response is going to be to that. He does still lead, but he's in a bunch of debt. He's got the carbon that he's not getting anymore, and he's also going to be going into the chem market, and he really doesn't have the carbon to do that.
Now that's actually kind of a problem. It's understandable that he's willing to make money on that, but he has a hacker ray, and he has been hacking carbon for a while now. But now that he's completely nuked out and he's moving into cams, he's actually going to run a carbon shortage.
Carbon shortage? Yeah, that's such a weird decision. I don't understand what his thought process is here.
I think it made decent sense when he started it, but at this point he has to cancel out of it, because he's making a little more carbon than One Eagle is spending carbon, so I guess never mind.
Yeah, and again, the only player with any optimizations at all is Peasant. He's going into that double food optimization, double chem optimization now. He's going to have 2 in oxygen as well. And he's actually
also
getting...
he's also the last person to finish buying up his stock.
Yeah,
so
there's...
kind of a sign, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some... Like, he does have some advantages going into the late game, though. Doesn't have any debt, so his stock's reasonably expensive. Mr. Cube's deciding that he might want to get a little bit aggressive against Peasant. And Peasant responds in kind, and yeah, that's not a battle... It feels as though Mr. Cube is in any sort of a position to win. Peasant certainly has the income advantage over Mr. Cubes right now. Not HQ5 yet.
I'm not entirely sure about these stock purchases that he had been trying.
Yeah, Mr. Cubes. He seems to be sort of seeing what works, I guess. But,
I think he may have been just trying to get a little money off of people, buy into them, make them defend, sell out. That's. I'm just not sure if it's enough.
I mean, it's such a marginal benefit, isn't it? Yeah, it's such a marginal benefit. You don't get very much money for doing that at all. So we have a new lead. Oh, sorry, go on.
I will say that Mr. Cubes is trying out an interesting thing by hacking iron, which he switched to producing from steel, which is just the perfect hack in this situation, because it's highly unlikely that anyone is going to compete with you on that.
Yeah, that's true.
There are people who can compete, but they need to notice it in time, and that doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, don't know about that. So Peasant has noticed something. He's noticed that the off-world launch is incredibly profitable, 61,000 for food. So he's going to go into that. Unfortunately, he's getting his stock bought up as well. And this off-world market is quite expensive. It's over $100,000 for him. But even so, it's going to be a really, really nice thing for him to have. I wonder if anyone has it spied out. I don't think they do. So, Peasant in a very, very good position with this off-world. If he can survive for long enough, he's going to probably have to buy Mr. Cubes outright eventually.
I will say that I didn't expect Mr. Cubes to come back into this quite as much as he did. But that teleportation with the really high life support prices did
yeah, that's
out
true.
Well.
Teleportation has gone down to him. I mean, yeah, there's such a weird selection of claims that he's got. He's really not very flexible, and if he ever wants to, like, he's going to want to, well, he probably has wanted to get out of these farms for a while, for example, but just hasn't done it. So Like, he's not in a position really to rotate these things when he needs to. But at the same time, it is an impressive effort, and yeah, he is using those iron hacks as you were mentioning. Huge amount of money in iron. It's how much is that? £110,000 dollars worth of iron right now. Oh, is that a random surplus? That's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate for him.
That may not have been random at all. In fact, 2D back is doing another iron surplus.
There we go. Yep, well spotted. So 2D back on top of that knows exactly what is up. But again, Peasant going to be getting those food launches in right now, in fact. So a lot of money is going to be going his way. 61,000 per launch. I don't think anyone knows about this off-world just yet. Certainly it still has its hologram, it still has its goon squad on it, and no spies either. So it's a race now to see whether Peasant can buy into Mr. Cubes before Mr. Cubes can buy out Peasant. Mr. Cubes has a little bit of a lead, but Peasant again with that huge income advantage. And I would honestly say that he's in the strongest position to win this game right now.
Yeah, I think that those optimizations plus a functional off-world at this point should probably end up in him winning the game. But
yep,
we'll
and
see.
2D back eventually going into those optimizations, as you as we mentioned a couple of times in this cast.
I think that took just an unnecessarily long time to get there.
Yeah, certainly did. He's not going to get a huge amount of value from that at this point.
At least not nearly as much as Peasant got of his two optimization centers.
So interesting little battle here. I think Peasant does definitely have this. Mr. Cubes is doing his best here. Still HQ4 and trying to get the cash together to buy Peasant out. He needs another 200,000 or so, but again, Peasant only needing another 100,000 or thereabouts. Mr. Cubes in that D level of debt, so his stock price is really tanking.
I don't really see how Mr. Cubes can do it at this point. I would consider selling out of Peasant.
Yeah, that at least makes Peasant's life very difficult. But if he doesn't do that, then Peasant really in a strong position will have that subsidiary advantage. And even though Von Eagle now also has his own off-world market going up, it's going to be a while before that's profitable. Peasant has the red button, he has the buy on Mr. Cubes, so a valiant effort by Mr. Cubes with that HQ4, but again, these claims, just not really able to get rid of these claims when he needed to, didn't have the flexibility that he needed, and despite good use of the hacker array, goes down to Peasant.
I have to give props to Peasant for noticing how good the off-world has become, because there was a point when I was checking, and the best launch was about 25k, and part of that was because it was relatively early still, but part of that was actually because the life support was very high, and then suddenly it crashed.
Yeah, well, it was the food price.
Amazing.
It was the food price which 2D back was holding high artificially because no one else was in it, and he was using EMPs on anyone else who built farms. But as soon as they got food production online and sustainably online, then the food price did indeed crash. And yeah, perfect timing from Peasant to go into that off-world. As you said, he's under a little bit of attack from 2D back at the moment. But again, 2D back has a long way to go, and Peasant's income is strong enough that you would think he's in a much stronger position overall. Something as well we haven't mentioned is that Peasant has been completely dominating this carbon market over 2D back. He's actually got 3 carbon quarries just to the southeast of his base. He's getting nearly 8 carbon a second, a huge amount of carbon, and stockpiling most of it. He just sold a bunch down. But even so, that's really nicely done by him, seeing that that was a problem for 2D back and getting in on the carbon action.
That may have been a recent addition, though. I don't know. Maybe I completely missed it, but maybe some of the carbon was from the
he had 2 for a long time. When we were talking about 2D back with the carbon, and when 2D back's carbon was getting nuked, he definitely had those 2 carbon quarries down then.
I must have completely missed that then, because I thought that Von Eagle is the only one having carbon other than 2D back.
Yeah, no, he's had them a while. I'm not sure whether he's had them for as long as Von Eagle has, but certainly he saw that price was high and decided to get in on that action as early as he possibly could. 2D back getting his dynamite, getting his Pleasure Dome dynamited, and Mr. Cubes, also the subsidiary, getting his Pleasure Dome dynamited too.
One interesting point about the Nomad found here is that he did indeed reclaim the nuked out Silken Tile, but I feel like he completely forgot about his claim returns, and he's still running 2 low quarries when he can replace them with 2 medium Silicon quarries.
Yeah, he's got 6 claim returns right now, which is an awful lot. You get 2 per HQ upgrade. So, yeah, he's only used, what, 2? So...
I think so.
So yeah, not perhaps the best use of those resources. Peasant, though, in a very, very strong position indeed. Imperious, I would say, in this game. Absolutely no chance now of anyone overcoming him unless he makes a major, major error. He's almost at the buy on 2D back, and Von Eagle with only $200,000, no off-world functional right now. He's had it mutinied away, and he's not in any sort of a position to challenge Peasant. So I think our game 1, and against the series specialist 2D back, the game 1 of Group C in this tournament is going to go to Peasant.
I'll say that was a very, very strong display, though. There were 2 crucial moments, I think, that helped Peasant get far ahead. Actually, 3 probably. Getting that slam drilling, which was very aggressive, but seems to have worked out pretty well. Then getting those optimization centers before anyone else definitely was a really powerful play. And then noticing the off-world is an amazing thing. And not just that, but also having the opportunity to move into an off-world, because for 2D back it was a little bit difficult to do with all the nukes. Carbon was just way too high for a while, and for Von Eagle it was also kind of difficult with very low silicon production.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think the I think you've nailed it there. I think the off-world and the optimizations, 2 things that have won Peasant the game here. And kind of weird to say that, because normally you get series, very high series prices, and off-worlds aren't particularly worth it. But certainly building one here has certainly paid out very, very handsomely for Peasant. The optimizations with those prices that are high, including carbon, including chems, including food for a while as well. All of those things benefiting. Peasant has a huge amount now of optimizations. You can see 2 things fully researched. Most other things that he could possibly produce have at least 2 pips in them. And at this point, there's really no coming back from that. He did get his off-world blown up. I'm not actually sure whether Von Eagle knows about his off-world still, because... Oh, maybe he does, because, yeah, the hologram's not there anymore. But he was just... No, the hologram's still there. So maybe he... I guess he probably does know about it. But he was just indiscriminately blowing up farms. So I wondered if that was just a lucky guess. But maybe it wasn't.
I guess sometimes it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Peasant's income stream dried up a little bit, because again, the off-world not functional anymore. Nothing really else on the market that's enormously profitable. That glass and electronics, along with the silicon, is very strong, and it's Von Eagle who has all of the silicon, so he's able to make more money from that than Peasant is at the moment. But again, as so often in these 4-player FFA games, we see the power of the subsidiaries. And Peasant subsidiaries right now very, very strong. 2,000 per second combined from Mr. Cubes and 2D back. Von Eagle has 1 little pipper stock in each of those as well, so he's getting 200 a second. But again, against the power of that subsidiary and against that stock price as well that Peasant has, even with relatively little income, I don't think there's any real chance that Von Eagle can do anything in this game.
Of course, there's always the finesse move for Peasant to sell out of his own stock.
Yeah, and he really should do that at this point, because this game is absolutely over. Von Eagle again just prolonging it by buying another one of Peasant stock, but Peasant within now 70,000 or so of taking game number 1. Will certainly do that. I don't know why he's scrapped out of those steel mills, but even so, he's going to get the red button very, very shortly indeed. And again, I'm going to say that this is a little bit of a surprise. You know, a fairly big upset here. Peasant taking out 2D Back, who has won specifically series tournaments before. But Peasant taking that one. You
know, I've been out of the meta for a while, so nothing is going to surprise me because I have no idea how anything works anymore, and who is good and who isn't. So I'll trust you on this one.
And if you want the confirmation that that hard work in this game does pay off, we've seen Peasant's hard work on stream on many occasions in the off-world community. We've seen him putting in those hours and taking time to analyze maps and taking time to think about the game and to work on it. And here we see the result, taking down 2D Back in this game number 1. Well played, Peasant, and we'll see how the other groups are getting on as well. Both seem to have finished, so Poor Sheep has taken out Group B in Sol 21, and a double quick win in Group A for Bob Rooney in Sol 15. So well played to the both of them. And I mean, it's just let's just have a look at some of the charts and graphs with this game. There's not a whole lot to see here other than these numbers on the balance sheet for the off-world amount that Peasant got. 456,000. That's certainly more than his off-world cost. It paid off very handsomely indeed for him. We'll see the optimizations. 26 optimizations at the end of the game. Possibly even overkill, but certainly again well worth it with the very, very high prices that we saw towards the end of the game in certain areas. Chems were very high, glass also was very high, and that carbon was very good for him for the whole game. And something else we didn't mention as well that possibly contributed more than perhaps we realized is the power situation for Peasant. He got into that power very early and started paying off all of his debt and then making power money, and that really saw him through those really difficult HQs 3 and 4, which were just a little bit awkward for him because he was behind 2D Back at that point. Didn't really have, he went for the early slant drilling as well, so there was definitely the potential for him to have stalled out during those 2 HQs, but no problem there with that power money to get through and get to HQ 5 relatively quickly.
Yeah, I don't think that we commented on power much at all, because it never really got too out of hand, and all the players were managing it well enough. But it feels like some of the players were managing it a little bit better, and it all added up.
Well, I'm just looking at it because on the biggest moneymaker screen, Peasant has power as his biggest moneymaker. He made over $600,000 for the whole game on power, which really surprised me. So yeah, that's something that he can definitely count as a real positive for this game. That's game number 1 then. Let's head on into game number 2. It's on IO, which is very exciting. I'm excited.
I'm confused.
We will see. I'm hoping that we get some elites for this one, because I want to see some elites. We don't really ever get to see them other than on IO, because quite frankly they're not very good. Not very good at all. But hopefully we will get to see them for this game.
It definitely feel kind of odd to play
Yeah, they do. I mean, certainly when you're not on IO and you don't have the basalt to fall back on, or basalt. I'm gonna actually look up a pronunciation guide for basalt because I'm not actually sure.
It's either is fine, but one is the American, one is British, or something like that.
Okay, so it's basalt. Seems like the emphasis is on the first syllable, so basalt. Okay, basalt. There we go. So, well, our blues have started in Group A, so I'm going to be a little bit swift here. I put the seed in. Just taking a very sneaky look at the map on Blues' stream. Ah, so much pasta in chat.
Too much pasta.
Alright, game number 2 of this June Casuals tournament for Off-World Training Company. We're on IO, folks. It's the first tournament, first serious tournament that's on different celestial bodies. We've had a serious game, now we've got an IO game. This one is involving Bon Eagle, who we saw in the last game, Rahi, Ian Arcade, and Clamercho, who has been performing very well on ladder fairly recently. So it's going to be an interesting one, and alongside me to enjoy this one as well is Yerand. What do you make of the map, Yerand?
Hello again. I'm not sure. There's a very obvious spot for something in the north. I think there's probably going to be a scavenger with the two high carbons.
Yeah, it's worth paying attention to which HQs we have here. We do have elites, we do have nomads, we don't have scientists,
and we don't have robots,
and
which
we
is
don't have
something
robots.
that has been screaming in the north.
Yeah, it has been a little bit. Again, this iron that's up here. So it can be interesting to see what people go with. There is an elite coming down in the south, and this is kind of interesting. He's got the basalt next to him. He's got the ice as well. So not a whole lot of iron nearby. In fact, barely any iron nearby, which is going to be a little bit difficult for him to deal with. But even so...
Oh my!
And another one as well. Wow. Okay, so again, double basalt to start, as you would expect. But again, I mean, there's a little bit of iron around. There's the two lows there. But again, that iron price, and we see at the moment the spike for the iron price. The iron price is just going to skyrocket, isn't it? I mean, there's a little bit coming in from these basalt platforms, but it's not enough to sustain these 3 steel mills apiece.
It's just enough to sustain them, actually, but
is it?
Yeah.
Is it? I thought it was... oh, is it 3? Oh, it is. It's 3, yeah, because the adjacency. So. Yeah, 1.5 a second, so yeah, fair enough. So it is enough to sustain them, but yeah, even so, it's... it got the basalt down, so... We'll see what these elites are able to do.
Ian is skipping iron on HQ1, so that is going to rise the price a little bit, but not by much, and he can move into iron just in time.
Yeah, I wonder what he's going to do, or whether he's going to go into that basalt that's right next to him. He's going to go for some oxygen instead with that solar condenser. Thinking about his other claims. Rahi, though, very strong start from Rahi. Has the carbon, has the 2 very high carbon tiles, 2.5 per second. Of course, you don't see very high tiles anywhere but IO, and that is something that Rahi is doing very well indeed, taking advantage of those. Going to be well ahead in upgrades.
There are no nukes on this in this game this time, so it's definitely a good time to be a scavenger.
Yep, and
Unlike last game.
And there's no adjacency for these two tiles, but 2.5 a second, you don't necessarily need adjacency. It's really, really strong. Getting
Better than
those
2 medium adjacents, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's not quite as good as.
Is.
Yeah, it's not quite as good as 2 high adjacents, but even so, it's very strong. Certainly, these two tiles are more than enough for Rahi as she goes through the HQ level. She's a full HQ up now on everyone else in the game and has a cash lead as well. So it's going to be really difficult.
Granted, all of these HQs are kind of slow starters, more or less, and so it's kind of understandable that the scavenger is rushing ahead, while the expansive and the
yeah, that's true. I think I'm a little bit I'm feeling a little bit apprehensive about Ian Arcade's position, because I don't think he really has very much of an advantage going into the later part of the game. Doesn't have that real boost to advanced buildings that the two elites will have, and again, Rahi is going to be very far ahead to those upgrades. Again, making money off power now as well, making a lot of money off power as well. 800 per second, has those 2 nuclear plants down, did have 3, got the third one frozen out, but again, that's why you put them in a line, that's why you put the goon on the middle one. Really strong position, HQ4 already. And the adrenaline boost as well on the power.
And power is really expensive at this point, the most expensive resource in the market.
Yep, 1500 a second just from that, or it was. It's now 700 a second because a slowdown strike came down from Von Eagle, which, yeah, needed to happen probably a while ago to prevent Rahi getting this very large lead. Putting down those water processors on IO turn oxygen and fuel into a little bit of power and a lot of water. So again, these tiles very profitable right now for Rahi. 160 per tile per second.
Yeah, like at this point, almost everyone has. Well, actually, everyone has a little bit of power, so it should be dying off pretty quickly. But I don't really see anyone having nearly as good a territory as Lahi has here.
Yeah, it's really quite strong. I mean, the power situation is kind of interesting from the colony's perspective, because there are a lot of power-consuming modules at the colony. A bunch of offices, a bunch of those garages, a bunch of those ion collectors as well. So that's where the demand's coming from. It's sustained itself very well through this mid part of the game. It is now finally crashing, but again, only with major surpluses from multiple players. Rahi at 7, Clemerchu at 7 as well per second. Transparent aluminium.
As power is dying off, of course, other resources are becoming crucial, and we're looking at water, we're looking at food, we're looking at glass, and of those 3 resources, Rahi is producing 2. So that's I'm still liking the territory a lot.
Yeah,
of course, Glamour is going to move into glass at this point, and other people should respond accordingly as well.
Oh, just having those extra claims for Rahi being HQ4, means it's really strong. She can basically do whatever she wants at this point. Has the iron collector down, has the second one going down as well. Not in food just yet. Food is really the big sort of gap in the market right now. And I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen any food from anyone just yet. I don't think anyone has any food.
I don't believe anyone has or had any food at any point. But here we come. HQ5 and some food.
Yep, very far ahead at this point, going into that food. And Patent Lab coming down from Von Eagle. Seems a little bit of a luxury at this point. I mean, chems aren't particularly expensive, so maybe that's okay, but again, just this HQ deficit that all of our players are having to contend with. Von Eagle HQ3.
I'm actually willing to criticize this Patent Lab a little bit, although he's getting transparent aluminium, which to be fair, I'm still going to criticize because it's a patent that you want to get as early as possible if you want to get it. But aluminium is $100, so is it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's.
I'm not sure it's even worth the. I mean, I'm not sure it's even worth the cost. Like, he's saving what, $80 per unit, and he's going to be using 60. So, I mean, that's what, 5,000, and then 6,000 for the HQ5 upgrade. Is that worth the chems? I'm not even sure that's worth the chems. I guess it is worth the chems, just about. But and he does get that upgrade now as well. But yeah, that aluminium, and he's not producing any aluminium, so that's going into the pockets of somebody else. That money that he's using to buy the aluminium. Combination of Ian and Rahi, I think.
But the real reason I'm willing to criticize it is because he is a elite, and he can get this any patent at any time. So do you really need to rush it? Of course, he's trying to get the synthetic meat.
Well, it was also in an auction, of course, for Ian. So Ian got it from the auction. So it was something that he was licensing already from Ian. But I mean, it doesn't particularly change your point. You don't need to rush it, I guess. Ian's in a bunch of debt. Too much debt, I would say, at this point. Does have that big power deficit, got frozen out by Von Eagle. So it's going to be struggling a little bit to get out of that debt situation. There isn't a debt tick for a while, so he'll probably be okay. Of course, one of the things about IO is that the day cycle is very, very long. 42.5 hours per day. So as long as you're not in D levels of debt at the end of those 42 hours, you're okay. But if you are, then you are going to take an enormous debt tick, and the further Ian gets into debt, the more difficulty he's going to have paying that off. He's going to be able to buy his own stock, but even so, it's going to be difficult.
He also has 2 stocks in himself over the safety limit, which I don't necessarily like. Like, sure, you want to protect yourself, sure, you're cheap, but you kind of want to cling on to whatever money you have and invest it into excuse me, into advanced buildings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I think the difficulty that he's got, and it might be an okay plan because it is such a long time until the next debt tick. He might still be okay to buy his own stock and then get himself out of the debt that he's in before the tick hits. But again, Von Eagle seeing the opportunity and getting himself a piece of very, very cheap stock indeed. But again, he's just very, very far behind. He's going to basically have to use all of his income to pay off this debt before the night hits.
And I think that's the optimal play that he has. If he lets this debt kill him, then, well, it will kill him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Rahi, HQ5, still the only player HQ5, and she has been HQ5 a long time by this point as well. So very, very big advantage in terms of claims and just in terms of the amount of stuff that she's able to produce. Back in the power again, is making basically, or was making power money before she won that auction. But again, just the food is profitable. She's going to be back into water, I imagine, very soon. In fact, she is already right now.
The real deal, of course, is happening at the center of the map, where there's a pleasure dome bringing in $550.
I had not seen that. Very well spotted. Yeah, $550 pleasure dome. That is a huge amount of money. That is.
It is with virtual reality, of course, but
yeah,
still.
It's still a huge amount of money. That's close to being as profitable. In fact, I think it's more profitable right now than an off-world market would be. So
now, it's also an interesting point to look back at the previous game where the scavenger was quite a bit ahead of everybody else, but just kind of didn't manage to turn that advantage into anything of substance by the end of the game.
Well, if there is something negative to say about Rahi's position, is that she doesn't have still really many late game advantages. She's got some of these patents, and that's really the only thing. No optimizations. No investments in any. Well, no investment in off-world, but again, you wouldn't necessarily expect that. The reason for this colouring, by the way, is there's a radiation storm right now as well. So ships can only carry 10 instead of 20 for basic resources. So basically shipping costs are doubled, and ion collector production goes up. That's one of the unique features of IO. But I think that's the
Also
only
pretty
real
in
criticism
pink.
I would say. Sorry, go on.
It's also pretty in pink everywhere.
It's very pretty, isn't it? It's the graphics team have really done a good job here of just making this look like a really convincing environment, and also a very pretty environment. Bad news for Ian is that he just took an enormous debt tick. He's now in D+4. He's now in $275,000 worth of debt, and I think functionally that probably knocks him out of the game. Doesn't really have the income to deal with that before, or at least to deal with that to the extent that he's able to recover and be a threat to anyone else in the game.
Yeah, I'm afraid that his debt at this point is just too much, and his stock prices just keeps dropping on. And of course he's trying to get back into the game, and he's moving into all these advanced buildings, but that's just making him a better sub rather than a player in this game.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be tough for anyone to, or it's going to be tough for him to fend people off and also get his optimization center running and also pay his debt off as well. Difficult thing to do.
Meanwhile, Rocky is moving into optimization centers.
Yep.
And if she wasn't doing that, I'd say that she still would have had a very good chance at this game, even without much advanced stock, if she can pull off a buy on Ian. But it seems like I'd say that both these things are the plan now, both advanced buildings and try to get that buyout.
Yeah, well, I think that's the missing piece of the puzzle really for Rahi at this point. She's not really able to, like, when you're a scavenger and you don't have those optimizations, you really do stall out in the late game quite a lot, quite often. But with those optimizations, again, this food is just going to get even better. It's $150 a tile without optimizations. Chems are likewise $150. Oxygen likewise. So again, any of that production is going to be amplified that little bit more with these optimization centers, and with all of her stock now, with a big cash stockpile, $310,000. It's really looking... I mean, Von Eagle does have some advantages. He is elite, and he's buying into Clamercho as well. And if he can get that buy done fairly soon, which he's not going to be able to do because he doesn't have any money right now, but potentially there might be something there if he can get enough money soon enough to get that buy fairly quickly. He's going to have a subsidiary income and a big stock price as well, which might be beneficial for him, but he doesn't have his whole stock defended, which means that Rahi can just go into him whenever she wants. Certainly you'd say that all of the cards are with Rahi at the moment.
I do have a bit of a problem with the Von Eagle. Like, I'm not sure that Clamercho is a better target than Ian at this point. They could be about equally good, but yes, he doesn't really have the money to poke at everyone, and I fear that Rahi's lead was just so much that he had to secure himself, because it turned out I was saying that Ian is the target, but if Von Eagle doesn't defend himself, which he didn't, then definitely that's actually a better choice for Rahi to go for.
And Rahi deciding that that's exactly what she's going to do, just go into Von Eagle. And doesn't actually need all that much money, only needs $507,000 total to finish that buy, and has about half of that right now. So not a million miles away from getting herself a subsidiary, being the first to do so. And at that point, you would really think that as the Pleasure Dome, somebody noticed the Pleasure Dome finally. Ian Arcade is mutinied it away, but the second one is still operational, still hugely beneficial. In fact, no, excuse me, that was the other way around. So Rahi has has mutinied away Ian's pleasure dome and is getting twice as much as she should be. So, yeah.
One of the reasons why I really like Rahi going after Eagle is the reason that he got the best patents. Essentially, he has superconductor, which is a pretty big deal, I'd say. He has synthetic meat, which is the one reason why I don't. I guess in the end, I don't mind his patent rush too much because that's such a good patent.
Yeah, also got liquid batteries and transparent aluminium, which again, transparent aluminium is
not very.
But again, liquid batteries are very good. But yeah, at this point, Rahi just with too much money, too big of a lead. Ian actually has a lot of money as well, but again is just in that huge amount of debt, 300,000 at this point, and doesn't really have anywhere to put the money that he has. It's kind of the issue. Kind of would need to go into Rahi, but again, that's a very difficult thing to do. Could buy out Clemercho if he wanted to, but again, that's not much of a value proposition for him. Only gets half of that subsidiary, and really doesn't benefit enough from spending the 438,000 it costs to actually do that.
You know what I want to see him do? I want him to start buying into Rahi.
Yep.
Or rather, I'd want Clemercho to start buying into Rahi so that Ian can try to split. But I don't think that's very likely to happen.
I think that's the only way that Rahi even conceivably loses, is if the two of them buy into her basically right now before she can get the buy on Von Eagle. And between them, they actually have close to enough money to make life very uncomfortable indeed for Rahi. But again, it's a question of whether they're going to do that. There's the interesting. Okay, so Ian does pull the trigger. Oh, sorry, Von Eagle does pull the trigger. Ian does pull the trigger. Yeah, sorry, on Clemercho. So that's all of his money gone. And in the meantime, Von Eagle just buying into Ian, which is only really going to help Rahi, because as soon as Rahi buys into Von Eagle or completes that buy, she's going to get some bonus stock as well. Going to get Ian as, or at least half of Ian by that point. But yeah, this game's I'm afraid over in terms of it being a contest. Rahi is going to take this one fairly comfortably, and again, that scavenger start with those two very high carbon. We mentioned it at the time, it's a lot of carbon, there were no nukes, so it wasn't anything that anyone else could do anything about. And getting that HQ lead, getting just more production than anyone else just from those extra claims, and turning that into a win.
I'd say it wasn't necessarily the most obvious start either. Like, I was eyeing the scavenger in the north with the two highs, and there's an argument to be made about this scavenger being better because you have better access to ice.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with this found, isn't there? I mean, there's not really any silicon. The silicon is coming in from quite a long way away.
Well, to be fair, there's also... Oh, well, I guess there actually is silicon in the north, but I kind of expected others to found in the north as well. But yeah, I'd say that ice is the biggest problem for the northern scavenger, as well as... Well, but this scavenger has a problem with aluminium. Oh, actually, no, there's aluminium. Never mind.
So, there is the buyout. Rahi taking down Ian, and it's going to be buying into Von Eagle. Interesting decision to go into Ian first. Had to switch targets a little bit there. Not exactly sure whether I would have done that. It doesn't make any difference at all, though, because, again, has the fairly major lead. Although...
No, I don't think so.
Because Von Eagle now has a space elevator as well. And space elevators have gotten pretty good in the meantime. And the subsidiary advantage isn't a huge subsidiary advantage at this point. So Rahi has a very small lead, actually. It's only a lead of about $200,000 in reality, because she has those two extra stock in herself. But she has a very small subsidiary lead, and no space elevator. Has a bunch of optimizations which are going to help, but Von Eagle also has optimizations, although he's optimized fairly inefficiently in terms of actual production. He's optimized for claims instead, which I think might have been a mistake. I think I would have put at least one into a bunch of these expensive things, glass, chems, that sort of thing. But even so,
life support was expensive, so I'm sure it made sense at the time.
Yeah. No, it almost certainly did, but it is very, very inefficient in terms of just the amount of resources and the amount of time you have to spend getting those full optimizations. Gets 3 extra claims at the end of it, but even so, it's a little bit difficult. Has 2 more space elevators building.
Yeah, that's something I'm not a fan of.
How much are these costing? These are very expensive space elevators.
Yeah, I spent probably around 150k for the third one.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, I think so. And they're all going to be finished fairly soon. Has 2 operational right now. Does Rahi see either of them? She does not. So potentially that's going to be one advantage that Von Eagle has. Does have a big mountain to overcome, though, in terms of that amount of cash that Rahi has, in terms of the stock price as well. And yeah, it's not gonna work. Rahi's gonna sell out of herself.
I think he had a very realistic chance, actually, if he hadn't gone for those extra elevators.
Maybe it was a little bit difficult without that income stream as well, though, particularly without those optimizations. But as we mentioned, Rahi, very well played, did take it out. I think it was, I didn't have a good look at this at the time, I think it was almost certainly a mistake by Rahi that came close to losing her the game to take out Ian before Von Eagle. I think Von Eagle was kind of a semi-threat, and Ian, I think, was no threat whatsoever, particularly after buying up the Mercho.
I think that because Eagle spent just so much money on other people's stock, that it made him look less intimidating than he actually was.
Yeah, I mean, but that's true. But then, even then, like, you get that stock if you buy Von Eagle. It just makes him it makes him. It's not that intimidating, but it's a. I'm talking about in terms of the decision now that Rahi made. It just seems like a fairly major error not to have gone for Von Eagle instead of Ian at that point. I mean, I think you might be right in terms of the amount of threat that Von Eagle was. I don't think he was an enormous threat, but again, just with all of that stock in other players, had a little bit of subsidiary income as well that he could match Rahi with, and maybe make it a little bit interesting in the latter part of the game.
If you look at some of the Chosen drafts.
Yeah, oh wow, look at yeah, Rahi's biggest moneymaker, the Pleasure Dome, $500,000 from the Pleasure Dome. That is a lot of money. That was virtual reality, and I think only one Pleasure Dome for most of it. I think she mutinied away Ian's Pleasure Dome for a while. But yeah, huge amount of money. That's a large part of the difference between her and Von Eagle in terms of business net revenue. And yeah, optimizations, as we mentioned, Rahi did eventually go into a bunch of optimizations. A little bit late doing it, perhaps, but certainly getting that very sort of efficient spread of optimizations in comparison to something like Von Eagle, which Von Eagle probably spent as much money and as many chems and as much time getting the optimizations that he got, but in the late game that's just not anywhere near as efficient as having all of these optimizations across lots of different production. And some more optimizations elsewhere, and yeah, we've looked at the pattern situation and we've discussed that. So very well played, Rahi. Rahi takes out the game. The other games have already finished as well. Mr. Cubes in Group B, winning that one, getting revenge on Peasant, winning that one in Sol 6 against Adderfield, Peasant and Bob Rooney. And Poor Sheep taking his second win of the tournament, or their second win of the tournament, in Group A, beating Tudibak, Relic and Ich bin ein Konto. So you have a surprise, perhaps, leader in terms of this tournament. Poor Sheep, seeded number 11, is the only player so far to have 2 wins to their name.
Well, again, I have no idea who's good anymore. So I have not encountered Poor Sheep before, so
Yep, I don't think I have either. It's really interesting to see different players coming and different players going.
well, this is going to be a good chance to get acquainted with him, though, because he is going to be in Group C for round 3.
Ah, we get to see Poor Sheep this time. So yeah, against Bob Rooney, Clemercio, and Adderfield. So certainly Adderfield is a known quantity. We've seen him plenty on the ladder and on previous tournaments.
And Bob Rooney is actually probably becoming a tournament veteran at this point. He has played in quite a number of them.
Yep, absolutely. A couple of memorable tournament performances from Bob Rooney. But there was a game where he stole somebody's carbon in the south of the map with a robot and just landed on top of the carbon. It was,
It's almost a perfect play there.
certainly in terms of being spectacular, it's perfect. The seed for this one is where are we? There we go. It's that one. So let's put that in. Yep, thanks, Paulina. I've got the seed in. Everything else is right. Welcome all. So, just to remind everyone, games 3, 4 and 5, all on Mars. So, we'll be back to a more familiar environment.
Yep. I do wonder about these new players and how they feel actually about the new planets. Because for me, obviously, Mars is like the default, the vanilla thing. And I do wonder how it would feel for someone to start out in IO and stuff and just treat that as a normal game mode as opposed to something strange.
Yeah, we had a little bit of that with Series when that first started, but I think people are mostly there with Series now. They sort of figured out how it works. It'll take a little bit of time to do that with IO as well. So, game number 3 of this casual tournament in June the 3rd, casual tournament in Off-World Trading Company. This one is back on Mars. We've had games on Series, we've had games on IO. Now we've got games on Mars. Clemercio Poor Sheep, who's got 2 wins in this tournament. Bob Rooney has got 1 win in this tournament. And Adderfield are contesting this one. And alongside me, and hopefully somebody's had an ability to look at the map and see what's up with it, is Yerand.
Ouch. Is what I think about this map.
Yeah, we don't have Zoltar for this tournament, but I'm feeling his presence here with this map.
Well, I keep forgetting to look at the HQs available, and yeah, Nomad makes a lot of sense here. I like it a lot.
Yeah, got the silicon, got the aluminium as well. Has water nearby. Has it's dry ice, isn't it? So potentially for carbon and oxygen in a pinch as well. Really nice found. Poor Sheep deciding where to put the second HQ, and yeah, it's just in a bunch of water. So again, doesn't have the aluminium really too much aluminium nearby. Clemercio, though, going for the triple steel mill start, which does make sense, is in the iron in the northeast, but not a whole lot else nearby. Has a little bit of water, has a little bit of carbon. That's pretty much it. So does have some gaps in his production.
Yeah, it's I'm not used to having just four HQs and the new HQs, especially on Mars, because I was thinking of this map in terms of the vanilla HQs, and I was thinking, so there's scavengers, there's like an expansive or something, and that's about it. But with the two nomads,
and something that we haven't discussed Adderfield's found. I'm
yeah,
really
I'm
intrigued to see. I'm intrigued to see if he can make an elite work, but again, elites just on anywhere that's not IO right now, just not very good, and the silicon is coming from all the way across the map. It's going to be a long time before he gets any of that. It is really cheap at the moment, so that'll help him out a little bit. But even so, a long time before he can really get that production turned on. And I mean, there are good things about being an elite here. The chem price is extremely low, so you can get into optimizations fairly quickly, potentially. But otherwise, again, really, really difficult for anyone really to make an elite work on anywhere that's not IO right now.
I am very hopeful for Adderfield, but I am also very concerned because the nomads are, I assume, still known for being able to rush through the upgrades reasonably quickly, and the elites, well, they're not very quick.
So Bob Rooney is at HQ3, and that's very, very quick. Adderfield does eventually upgrade to HQ2, so he's going to be able to do something with that. Clemercio, HQ2 as well. Poor sheep. What has happened to poor sheep?
I have no idea, actually.
Oh, I see. So he's gone into 3 silicon quarries, and that's a big problem, because silicon is absolutely worthless, and also electronics are at $240, and I'm not sure that he's ever going to get to HQ2.
I assume that nomads do not receive any extra resources and funding, which is something that you kind of have to keep in mind when you founders them.
Yeah, I mean, you like it's very difficult, because again, the silicon just looked really good, but again, the electronics being really, really high, he's going to be able to make a little bit of oxygen, so he's probably going to have to turn a second one of these elemental quarries into a solar condenser as well. But really, really far behind. He's going to take a lot of catching up as a nomad, and you want to really be racing ahead in the way that Bob Rooney is in this game as a nomad. So he's going to be really struggling for this whole game. Clemercio, though, up to HQ3 as well. So 2 of our players now HQ3, and Bob Rooney stalled out a little bit. Again, he's another one who's suffering from this silicon situation, and also suffering from the fact that he's bringing in carbon from way, way, way across the map. He's going to be really struggling with that in B level of debt as well. So Bob Rooney stalling out a little bit, and maybe Clemercio in a good position now.
I'd like to point out, though, that Bob is making some electronics, and Adderfield actually moved really hard into electronics. So sure, that carbon is going to cost you a lot of fuel, but it's not going to be awful.
It's
for a while.
Gonna be
well,
okay.
Now it's turning awful. Now it's awful. Now this nuked.
Well, that tile for Bob is just is really really not anything good at all. It's probably just going to have to be a solar panel for the rest of the game, I would imagine. Clemercio going into a triple wind turbine, which is an interesting move. Doesn't have any of them protected right now. It's a potentially very good move for him. Power is sticking at 170 right now, because no one else is really making that move into power. Only Bob Rooney has any other power production at all. And that's from a single geotherm. But,
sounds like about time to get rid of your electronics completely.
Poor sheep gets to HQ2 just at the beginning of Sol 3. Really painful start for them. And yeah, out of field now, these electronics are now losing money, or very close to losing money. Certainly with the power cost, they are losing money. Going into farms instead, which does make sense. Doesn't have the water to support it, but still, might be good. Has the water next to him, so might be alright with that.
That's one problem maybe for Adderfield, is they could have moved into production on top of the water tiles, keeping in mind that electronics are unlikely to stay super profitable for a long time, seeing as the colony does not consume them.
Plamercho getting his power frozen out by Bob Rooney, which a little bit of inexperience perhaps. Had the opportunity to buy a 3k goon squad, chose not to. But still is first to HQ4. We have a mule auction right now, and the mule auction actually could be quite good. Again, you get two for the price of one now, and there's a bunch of things potentially that you can collect.
I feel like everything kind of dropped off except for aluminium.
Yeah, aluminium's there. Water is actually getting up as well, especially with that food production that Adderfield now has.
Now he has an aluminium mine turned off actually, so that's probably something he just forgot to turn on at some point when he when whatever was happening that we weren't paying attention to.
Yeah, that single low aluminium tile. Bob Rooney into a patent lab.
A single low should usually be enough for a robot, but you kind of need to keep it on.
Yeah, you do. That's very obviously a mistake, and he's just completely forgotten about it. That's a very profitable tile right now as well, and he has now remembered and turned it back on. So does get to that in time. $100 now per unit of aluminium.
In an interesting turn of events, Poor Sheep makes it to HQ level 3, and perhaps this is time for a comeback.
It would be quite a comeback, wouldn't it? And is in that food market. The food market potentially very good. Adderfield is producing a little bit of food, but not a whole lot of food, honestly. So Plamercho now also going into food. Bob Rooney has the single tile. So again, that's going to be sustained for quite a while for Poor Sheep. So oh, never mind, he got frozen out. That's unfortunate.
Now Bob has stalled out for a while. He made it to HQ level 3 while two other players were still HQ 1, but he's only now making it to HQ 4, and part of it is that insanely expensive aluminium, of which most players don't have a lot of actually. Adderfield has none.
Yeah, Bob Rooney's collecting a whole bunch. Collecting 7 a second. So he's going to be making a lot of money from that. And got his patent lab blown up, unfortunately. Could have gooned that, chose not to, and paid for it. Expensive electronics as well.
I don't see a lot of goon squads for some reason. I don't know if meta changed for whatever reason, but well, I guess it's both a goon and a claim game, so people are prioritizing claims over goons. But still, there's offensive black market flying all over the place, and the goons aren't getting bought. It's a very aggressive game. Yeah,
lots of EMPs. EMPs at 10. Here's a claim auction. Adderfield in a pretty good position, given that he's an elite. He does have the optimization center going up as well. He's going into electrolysis reactors. So potentially we might see an elite competing in the latter stages of a game that's not on IO, which would be quite an interesting thing to see.
Definitely a lot of EMPs flying all over the place, but not enough are landing on Adderfield's territory quite clearly.
Yep, he's got the electronics production back up. He's got the farms as well. The farms are really what's making him a bunch of money right now. He's going to optimize that food.
He is in C levels of debt, which is by far the most debt of anyone else in this game.
Yeah, does need to deal with that, and really there's not all that many avenues for him to deal with that. Power still up at 150, and he's sustaining that price. Not only is he getting into more debt with that, but he's also sustaining that power price for Plamercho, for example, who's making power money right now.
Well, he has just started doing that, but the point still stands.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very much power money. It's only $200 a second, but still, that's quite a lot of power. That's quite a lot of money in the sort of context of the game. Even though we're used to seeing bigger numbers than that in the power column. Everyone HQ4 now, and yeah, poor Shoop after his very poor start has come back into this one very, very capably. You can certainly see
he is still behind, but he's nowhere near as far behind as he was.
Also going into a patent lab. I wonder what he's planning to do with that. Bob Rooney, though.
You mean,
oh, sorry, a hacker array. Yep, excuse me.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he's planning to do with that. I'm not sure there's... I don't know. You're the hacker array expert, yeah. And what would you hack here?
So what he's doing is the good old trick when you don't know what to hack oxygen.
Yeah.
But
okay. He's getting some oxygen in. Nobody else has any real oxygen production. It's all just from reactors. But
well, he actually has quite a lot of oxygen.
Yeah.
From dry ice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty sensible. I can get with that.
So it's not just the old trick of no one has enough oxygen production. This is a legitimate, just well-produced resource.
Adderfield has fallen into that D level of debt, unfortunately. He has it HQ5 as well. He's not really behind in terms of HQ levels and in terms of cash, but again, is in that D level of debt, is paying a little bit of that off right now. In fact, has he been cooking it? Yeah, he's just cooked the books, in fact, which is why he's now not in that D levels of debt. Adderfield.
That would explain why he was in C with over 100k in debt earlier.
Yeah, so that's probably the second cook the books. Poor Sheep now has 2 hacker arrays. So we'll see whether he's able to really make anything work with that. In fact, no, he's not. He's got rid of the second one, and or got rid of his original one and put some water down instead, which seems pretty sensible.
I do like that quite a bit.
Here's a stock battle, though. Bob Rooney decided to go into Adderfield because he was cheap, and Adderfield not defending his stock. No siree, not for Adderfield. Decides to go into Bob Rooney straight back. So it'll be a question of whether he can out-earn Bob Rooney to 300,000 or so.
I'd say that Bob is very unlikely to pull off this buy quickly, but even in the long game, I feel like Adderfield's debt is just going to be too much, so he still has the advantage.
Yeah, I think so too. Adderfield again, falling back into that D level of debt. Buying into Poor Sheep. Is Poor Sheep dead? Yeah, Poor Sheep's dead. That's really unfortunate.
Oh.
Doesn't have the money to defend themselves, and Poor Sheep goes down to a combination of Clemercio and Adderfield. Very opportunistic from the two of them, and Bob deciding to get in on that action as well.
Very interesting ideas to try to come back from Poor Sheep. That I'm a big fan of that oxygen hack, but unfortunately it was just way too late.
Yep, it was. And just that start just put them so far behind. And again, you know, huge props in terms of what they were able to do with, you know, being 2 HQs down and getting themselves back into the game. But not quite enough this time. Didn't quite manage to defend themselves, and goes down to that combination. It's a rainbow stock for Poor Sheep right now. Adderfield has most of it, but by no means all of it.
Adderfield is in a very interesting position.
Yeah.
I feel like he is reasonably well set up for a late game, but his debt is just a huge problem.
Well, he's got that huge amount of debt, and he is still behind in this battle against Bob Rooney. He now does have slightly higher stock price because he bought into Poor Sheep, which is pretty big factor in terms of what he's trying to do here. But again, he's just got that, needs that income, is optimizing, which is going to help him quite a lot. And in fact, he's going to be getting an extra claim from that as well, because he's now fully optimizing electronics, which is a really good effort from him. And that is going to be beneficial in terms of the amount of money he's going to be making too. Those electronics are now pretty profitable. 120 at current levels, a bit more when that 4th pip finally goes up.
So as you had pointed out in the previous game, he has optimized some other resources as well before he started moving into maximum optimizations and getting the claims.
I always feel it's worth it to do that if you possibly can, because it doesn't take very much time and it's just much more efficient in terms of the amount of stuff you get for your money. It's only 20 chems to go into the first pip of optimization, and in terms of a percentage you actually get a bigger increase than you do from the final pip, which costs 80 chems. So obviously, with being of note is that Adderfield, just before that debt tick, was able to get out of that D level of debt, so didn't quite pay full whack on that interest tick. But obviously as an elite you have the extra claim that you get from optimizing something fully, so there's that to balance out as well. But certainly in terms of pure profit from optimizations, I feel that doing it the way Adderfield has done it is the best way to do it. Clemercho getting in as well onto Bob Rooney. That's going to make life a little bit interesting. Both Bob and Adderfield into Off-Worlds 2. Off-Worlds are fairly profitable but not insane.
I'm a little surprised by the decision to go Off-Worlds. They are not exactly particularly cheap.
They're not particularly cheap.
I guess they're not terribly expensive either.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably okay, and it does make sense that they both would do that. But it does lengthen this game a little bit more, and I feel that lengthening this game right now really only benefits Adderfield. Bob does now have optimization centers going up.
I actually am not so sure, because Adderfield missed out on all of Bob's stock. So
yeah, but I mean that's
going to be a big pain for him.
Yeah, but that's money that he's going to have to spend anyway, whether the game is shorter or longer. And
yeah, but he did not get it at the half price. Now he has to pay double.
No, but again, given that Bob now owns it, Adderfield is going to have to buy that at double price. Pretty much whatever happens, it's a mountain he's going to have to overcome, as it were. But I just feel in terms of income right now, and particularly with that sub as well, the sub is building an off-world, so potentially I think Adderfield does have a fairly significant income lead over Bob right now, and that might just help him again. That the 2 off-worlds being built might just slow the game down enough for that to matter a little bit more.
I definitely think that Adderfield is in a good lead, but
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's in a lead. I think it's really close right now. I guess that's my point. Like I thought that Bob was quite far ahead, but I don't think he is now. I think Adderfield is certainly knocking on the door, and with the amount of money that he has, gets a hacker array down too, gets his stuff frozen as well by Clemercho. Has all of that money in electronics too.
To be keen to hack electronics, exactly. And it actually seems to be like a good decision at the moment, strangely enough.
Yeah, I think it's a very good. He's the only one in electronics, and he's the only one for who it makes sense to make it. That's not actually true, because electronics are actually very profitable across the board, but certainly they're not as profitable for anyone else as they are for Adderfield. And I guess at this point, the other players know that Adderfield is stockpiling a bunch of electronics too. This is a mistake, though. Going into Clemercho, I think.
I guess he secured the undependent stock, but still, that's
yeah, I think it's like he needs all of that money to get into Bob Rooney. Bob Rooney is much the bigger threat right now.
To be fair, Bob sold out of Adderfield a little bit, so that is making his life a little bit easier, but I'm not sure if it's easier enough, and I think he does need that 100k that he hasn't quite a commercial at the moment.
Yeah, it's a slightly weird standoff right now. Has anyone else gotten into electronics? Nobody else is in electronics still. Adderfield just making bank from these right now. Is hacking them.
Prices are generally very high, so it's maybe sad not to see anyone go to electronics, but it's kind of understandable because everyone needs a lot of claims, and electronics are just difficult to produce in general.
And Adderfield has an off-world at the colony as well, with 3 adjacencies with the warehouses, so he's going to be, again, just the income that he's got, and yeah, now he's going into Bob Rooney, and I think actually Adderfield in this game in a really strong position, and Bob Rooney deciding just to sell out of Adderfield right now. And again, that only helps Adderfield.
He's trying to survive longer than Clemercio, I think, at this point. He's moving in the second off-world, just finished, I think. Yeah, so they're even on that front, but...
So Adderfield,
I don't know.
Very shortly, and yeah, now does have the red button, does decide to pull the trigger. Is in a bunch of debt as well. 330,000 of debt, and actually the fact that Bob sold out of all of that stock might have meant that Adderfield made a mistake in finishing that buy on Bob Rooney. Maybe I'd have preferred him to defend himself instead, because Clemercio now has a significant cash lead, although Adderfield now does have a big income lead.
Absolutely. I don't know, it's difficult to predict, but I think that this subsidiary money is going to be enough for him to actually finish this game.
Well, Bob's going to be very profitable very soon. That 300 isn't going to last long. It's going up, and you can see 400 now. It's going to be a very, very good subsidiary really, really soon. Clemercio still needs $400,000 or thereabouts. Adderfield needs $500,000 or thereabouts. I think Adderfield has it. It's fairly close, but I think he does have the income advantage to be able to take this game number 3.
You know, these off-worlds aren't great, but when you have 4 full off-worlds on the map working for you, that's a lot of money.
Does get it blown up though. One of his blown up at least by Clemercio, who bought a dynamite. Adderfield has 2 dynamites in his inventory. Needs to use those on Clemercio. One of his, Clemercio's only off-world is not gooned right now. Every second that is up is pretty much strictly a mistake, and yeah, he does eventually blow it up. So
that might be the thing that finishes this game, because Clemercio's actually getting quite close, but without an off-world.
Yeah, Adderfield doesn't have an off-world now either, other than the subsidiaries, but yeah, this subsidiary income, nearly 3,000 now combined between Poor Sheep and Bob Rooney. Adderfield, what is he? He's at he's about 250,000 away. Clemercio's selling electronics as well, so Adderfield's not getting a whole lot of value from these hacks.
He's still getting value if he's just auto-selling the electronics, if he's not stockpiling and trying to counter the hack. I do like Clemercio's decision not to repair the off-world, though. I think that's the right call.
Yeah, I think it's the right call as well.
Very expensive, and if you do that, then you're probably out of the game.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to matter, because Adderfield now at 92%. It is going to be fairly close. He needs this is the sort of point at which you really need to be thinking about cancelling some of these optimizations, cancelling some of these off-world launches, because he is at 100%. He has the red button, and he's going to take game number 3. Made it a little bit awkward at the end, but did eventually recognise that he had the money, and did take out this game number 3. And can we just say, very, very well played Adderfield, making an elite work on somewhere other than IO. I almost feel like that should be worth 2 points instead of just 1, but as far as I know, it's still only 1 point for Adderfield.
Well, I don't know what the meta is, so unfortunately I can't grant that. But
well, I mean, I think certainly it's still accepted that elites in general are weaker on anywhere that is not IO. I think they're getting some buffs quite soon.
Yeah,
but
sounds reasonable.
But certainly I wasn't expecting Adderfield to have this strong a showing with this HQ. This is a legitimately impressive performance. And yeah, very, very well played indeed. Gonna have a look at the biggest money earner. Absolutely no surprise. Oh my goodness, 1,600 for Adderfield. I mean, he bought 600,000.
Only 600.
But
so
yeah,
that's,
so
still...
he made $1 million pure profit on those electronics, and we criticised him in going into those electronics initially because they weren't a particularly good value proposition for him. But with those optimizations, they just become really, really good.
They actually were decent investment early on, but it's just that they fell off pretty quickly, so that was a big problem. But then they kind of stayed.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, sure about how and why, but
well, I
just
mean,
happened.
We have a few machine shops at the colony, so one a second in terms of demand. But I mean, part of the issue was just that, I mean, carbon was kind of awkward for everyone, so that made it a little bit difficult. And Adderfield didn't have very much carbon, but he didn't particularly care. Decided to go into those electronics anyway. But I think part of the reason was that everyone knew that Adderfield had a bunch of electronics, so as soon as they went into electronics, Adderfield was just going to sell out. And so they didn't, and so Adderfield didn't sell out, and so they kept going up.
I think another reason is that every HQ except Adderfield's required electronics to upgrade,
including Adderfield's. In fact, yeah, that's a very good point. And yeah, Bob Rooney actually making that point in chat as well.
Wait,
so elites use electronics too. So all four using electronics instead of glass. So that probably was quite a significant reason too. And in fact, I'm not actually sure that's true. I think Adderfield might actually be upgrading with glass. I think it used to be electronics, and I think it was changed. I'm not sure though.
Kind of changed all over the place at some point, so who knows?
Yeah. So maybe it is glass. But in any case, whether it's 3 or 4, it makes it makes a big difference to the amount of electronics that is globally demanded.
There's definitely one thing to look out for when you have nomads, because traditionally electronics don't really have that much pressure for a long while, because even if you have a bunch of robots, who cares?
Yeah.
But
no, absolutely,
the nomads requiring quite a lot of electronics, that's definitely going to change the balance a little bit.
And yeah, I just want to reiterate the optimization situation as well. This is almost perfect in terms of optimizations, I think, for Adderfield. This is exactly what you want to be doing as an elite. You want to be getting 1 or 2 maybe extra claims if you can, and if it makes sense to do it. It certainly made sense with the electronics, but you can't neglect the other optimizations as well, because these 2 pips here, these 2 pips here, this 1 pip here, these 2 pips here, really, really efficient in terms of the amount of stuff you get for your money. And of course, with that 50% extra speed as well, there's really no reason not to do it when you're an elite. And I think he played that almost perfectly in terms of optimizations.
I do agree. I think I'm a big fan of how Adderfield managed optimizations in this game. He gets a couple there, like 1 in food, 1 in glass, move into electronics, max them out, then get some more in glass, get some other ones, finish glass, and stuff like that.
So that was game number 3, and we're going to head into game number 4 now. Put the seed in nice and early, so I've not forgotten to do that. What happened in the other games? Von Eagle taking Group A. Another very long game, in fact. Sol 10, 18-10. And Group B, 2D back, getting his first win on the board. That was a high quality game. That in terms of the players that were in it, at least Ikbin Konto, Peasant, 2D back, and Rahi. But 2D back winning that one. Sol 5. So that must have been largely majority buys. So well played to 2D
Sounds like someone ran away on power.
Yeah, I imagine something like that. Be interested to see what actually happened there. So, everyone ready in double quick time? I think we're good to go.
Yep.
go. Once again, big shout out to our organisers for this tournament, doing a superb job. Game number 4 then, of this Group C Off-World Casuals tournament, June 2017. This one has covered the whole spectrum of maps. We've had games on Ceres, we've had games on Io, we've had one round of games on Mars. Here is a second round of games on Mars, and here to enjoy it with me and perhaps talk us through this map a little bit is Yerand.
Hello.
What do you make of this?
I'm looking at some interesting aluminium iron tiles, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, this middle of the map right here. There's no robots, and there's
no-brainer.
And there's no water anywhere near. And yeah, I kind of like the expansive. I mean, that makes it a little bit less painful to get maybe these too low water in the south, and bring the water in like that, or maybe even just commit 2 or 3 claims to some of this ice, which is water ice. So that's going to be something perhaps. And another expansive goes down just to the west there.
This one I'm less sure about.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no iron really, is there? That's a big problem.
There is, but you have to ship it, and that's painful. You might be skipping steel though. Steel started at half price, so that's actually one thing I didn't look at. That's an interesting farm this way because he skipped steel. He moved into water.
Yeah, okay.
Quickly.
I'm a fan.
If he wants to keep skipping it.
Well, I don't think he'll keep skipping it. I don't think you can. I mean, steel's awkward for most players. The only one really who's going to have easy steel is Bob Rooney. Instead, he's going into farms for this first HQ. So, I mean, steel's going to get expensive very quickly. I mean, it does, but steel's going to get really expensive. And yeah, these combo tiles for Mr. Cubes. And again, no steel for Mr. Cubes either. So,
well, he does have the all the cool tiles.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a big advantage.
This is a bunch of awkward production, though, honestly. Because everyone, like, half the people have food, half the people have iron, half the people have steel, but no one has them in quite the optimal configuration.
And I have to say, I mean, this is the sort of thing that this is the sort of game that's really benefited from having not all HQs available the whole time, because I think if there were all HQs, I think we'd see a bunch of robots. And I don't think that's quite as interesting as what we're seeing here. We're seeing players just trying to work around the fact that they don't really have any water, and maybe making it with solar condensers or doing something else to get themselves some water. But it's just made it a little bit of a scramble. It's kind of quite interesting.
I really like what Mr. Cubes has arrived at, though, with his configuration. He does not have water, which is still a problem, because food has died off.
Well, he's going to get himself some water now, I assume. I wonder what he's going to do.
Double geo, it looks like.
Oh, a double geo. There's a double geo. Power is not really a factor right now, but yeah, there is a double geo, and I think he probably is going to take that.
How can you resist it?
But yeah, I would like to see some of this water. All of this water right now, or the water money rather, that people are producing this this food with. It's going to Konto right now.
Oh, she's actually moving into water next to that geo, which not so sure about.
I mean, I guess it's okay. I mean, the issue, I mean, it's you obviously want it a little bit further away just for black market purposes as well. But there are these 2 tiles. There are nukes though, so maybe these 2 low tiles in the south aren't quite as good. And yeah, the game deciding that what it wants to do is auction off a high water.
I absolutely don't mind claiming the ice tiles. I'm just not a fan of the black market risks that he's putting himself into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a big factor. Pretty even though at the beginning of this game, nobody really with any sort of a significant lead. Relic did get that high water tile, which I think is probably going to be quite good for him.
Yeah, that's. I think of all the people who could have gotten that tile, that's easily the best match. I quite like Bobruni's start though. He's a very solid scientist here, but unfortunately, he went for a very greedy boost and got shut down with the power surge pretty
Yeah,
hard.
that's true.
So
We didn't comment too much on that. And again, the scientists, if you're not aware by this point, the scientists have lost their black market immunity or black market defense, so they suffer from those surges just as much as anyone else does. Konto getting aggressive against Mr. Cubes' geotherm. It's going to be a little bit painful for him. Power's now a factor, at least. And yeah, Mr. Cubes responding by putting 2 goon squads on those 2 geotherms. They are going to be extremely good when they get online, but again, geotherm's very slow to build, and power is on its way down, given that Konto now also has a bunch of production in the northeast. Some of these combo tiles as well from Mr. Cubes getting nuked out now. He's got a couple more to work with, but again, it's going to be difficult for him to deal with. That trace aluminium, the trace iron, not very productive anymore. Does still serve for adjacency purposes, but that's pretty much it. Relic, though, getting himself into a fairly significant lead here. It's certainly a fairly significant cash lead. Has a little bit of debt, but I think he is going to be first to that HQ4.
should probably be the case. I do not really see much of a problem with Mr. Cubes getting nuked out. He still has quite a bit of resources underneath those tiles. He can just rearrange them slightly, and that should give him a close enough equivalent.
Yeah, I think he'll probably be fine. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, it's a little bit painful for him in that he doesn't have now 2 combo tiles with adjacency. But otherwise, yeah. I mean, he's got probably more than enough aluminium for almost the rest of the game, and yeah, what he's going to need is iron. So it's no real problem at all for him to transition into one of those single iron tiles, maybe.
Now he's a little bit behind everybody else at this point, but that's kind of understandable with the greedy double geo play. Which, to be fair,
and he got one of them
expensive, but still.
Well, he got one of them blown up, and normally that wouldn't be a huge deal, but he did miss out on a lot of that power money or the paid off debt because he got one of them blown up. But does get to HQ4 now, has no money to do anything else with anything, having got to HQ4. But still, he's certainly in this game, and there's no one really who's dragged themselves into a big lead. The person, honestly, that I feel most concerned for at this point is Konto, who A, is a scavenger, so doesn't scale particularly well into the late game anyway, but B, he committed 3 of these tiles, remote tiles, into these wind turbines, which were quite good for him. They did make him quite a bit of money, but now they're really not very good anymore, and really can't do anything else with those tiles. He only has one of them on ice.
Oh, does he?
I think,
no, he has 2 of them on ice.
Oh, 2 of them are on ice, okay. But
wait,
even
he
so,
has all of them on ice, I think.
Really? Wow, he does, okay. It doesn't look like it at all. It really doesn't look like it, but yeah, fair enough in that case. He can at least transition them into something else, but even so, it's awkward for him to do that. And I'm not sure that I'm...
Given that he has 3 remote ice tiles, it really is a bit awkward.
Yeah, it's extremely awkward. And also, he got one of his carbon quarries nuked out. So with that electronics that he's making as well, and electronics is pretty good, I don't necessarily question that decision, but he's really not going to have any carbon at all to upgrade to HQ5, or really to build any buildings at all.
Yeah, the prices are definitely moving up pretty quickly. Glass is rather expensive at this point. And a lot of his production is either power or input resources. He only has 3 tiles dedicated to secondary resources.
Yeah, and
that's a big problem for him.
He's also going into teleportation, which is a very, very marginal value right now, to be completely honest. I mean, it does mean that he can rotate these 3 wind turbines into something at slightly less of a cost, because he can make them production buildings, for example, and they're okay. It just takes a while to transition, because the bots have to get there and back.
I would consider transitioning the 3 water tiles that he has into some production, switching the power for water. That's
Yeah.
like you want to have secondary buildings closer to your base so that you can switch them to something else much quicker, even if you have teleportation.
There was a little bit of aggression in the stock market against Bob Rooney, but he's managed to deal with that without any real problems. He does have quite a bit of money. He's also just got carbon scrubbing, which seems like it'd be quite a valuable patent here. Chems are high, electronics is high, carbon's quite high as well, and carbon is also very awkward for Konto, so it's likely to stay high. I think Bob Rooney certainly, in terms of the patents, Relic has slant drilling and is going into nanotech, but I think Bob Rooney seems to have the better of the patents right now. He's also going into thinking machines, which could be a very big advantage. There's only one launch off-world, it's an oxygen launch, but it's pretty good, it's 41,000. And if you can make oxygen, then that's certainly something you're going to want to prioritize fairly high. He does get the thinking machines. So Relic and Bob Rooney, I mean, I want to say, I mean, they're not HQ5, but I almost want to say that they're in a better position than the two players who have upgraded to HQ5 at this point.
Well, yeah, I guess. To be fair, Mr. Cubes isn't expansive, so the extra claims should start kicking in soon, but he's the only player who has no advanced buildings whatsoever, and that's a big problem always.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, particularly given what's high right now in terms of prices. So chems, glass, and electronics, all things that benefit a lot from being optimized. And if you don't have those optimizations going, it's a little bit difficult, I think, to make a huge amount of money, given especially that carbon and silicon are so high as well, or carbon at least is so high.
Speaking of optimizations, Relic has had the optimization center for a while. Konto is just moving into it.
Yeah, I mean, Relic has some...
I kind of want to blame people for not doing that, but at the same time, the chemicals are just so expensive and have been for a while.
Yeah, but if you're making chem,
I
mean, Bob Rooney really has no excuse at this point, because he's making chems. Like, you can certainly deal with that if you're making chems. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, I imagine he will do it eventually, but I certainly feel, and even steel, like optimizing steel right now is just very, very good, because the profit that you get from that right now, really big. And given the off-worlds are okay, steel's likely to stay high, and carbon's likely to stay high. There's all of these things, all of these quite sustainable markets that seem to me, at least, to be prime for optimizing. 2 pleasure domes at the colony, one for Mr. Cubes, one for Bob Rooney. Pretty decent.
Neither of them
or so
have
apiece. No virtual reality.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
2 hacker arrays coming down. Mr. Cubes is hacking fuel, which I don't know about that.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's okay. Bob has some fuel. Bob has been making fuel.
Yeah, sure.
I guess it probably is okay. He's the only one that's making it in any real volume, and he is actually going to be...
He's actually losing fuel. Well, that's because of the boost.
Yeah. But if he's buying into the hack as well, maybe it works, because he's going to be able to buy a lot of fuel and get a lot of money from that, because the price is so low right now.
It's an unusual decision, I feel, but in Mr. Cube's position, I'm not sure what else he might want to try to hack.
It's worth making the point again. Bob Rooney with that carbon scrubbing, and look how good these chem refineries are. It's a huge amount of money that he's getting. And Mr. Cubes decided to buy into a couple of different people, and he seems to have angered Bob Rooney some, because Bob is a little bit aggressive in response, although now he's changing his mind a little bit again. A couple of interesting stock decisions in this game. Nobody seems to quite be willing to commit to anything.
Yeah, just a lot of everything is happening all over the place.
Yep, well that's Off-World Trading Company for you. And yeah, Relic is in electronics, but again, is in glass too, but without those optimizations, electronics just not very good. Glass is a little bit better, but still not hugely good. And the chem refineries are also off. Sorry, go on.
I'm a little bit curious about what happened to Relic, because it seems like he's amassing a lead, and he had been actually investing into advanced buildings and stuff. But I don't really see him in the lead at this point.
No, well,
it's hard to tell who is in the lead, but
yeah, I think Relic is behind, and I think the reason he's behind is also in a bunch of debt, which is a big problem for him. But I think like the reason is these buildings right here at his base, these little triangles. There was a triangle of chems, which are now completely died with carbon at 260. Electronics are also completely, like, almost worthless in terms of the amount of profit that he's making from those factories. So it's just a whole lot of his production that's not making money. You contrast that with someone like Bob Rooney, who has pretty much, there's a lot of green. If you press X on Bob Rooney, there's a lot of green around his base, and often that green is accompanied by a triple figure sum. So just much more efficient claims. He's making a lot more money, and a large part of that is carbon scrubbing.
yeah, I have to say that Bob Rooney definitely got the better of the patents this game.
Yep, for sure. So Bob, I would imagine, is going to be thinking about buying into Relic fairly soon. Mr. Cubes and Konto are both going at each other, and that looks like a fairly even fight right now.
Now, Relic is paying some of his debt, trying to make sure that he doesn't go too low. He doesn't.
Yeah, he was trying to take a C debt tick rather than a D debt tick, and he did succeed in doing that. But yeah, he is paying off that debt slowly. He's also auto-paying his debt off, which I guess, given the changes to auto-pay, is now okay, because he is able, like, it keeps the debt at the level it's currently at, which is probably what he wants it to do. But even so, he's still quite vulnerable to Bob Rooney, who now has 200k in cash and resources, and really needs to find something to do with that money.
He, unfortunately, I still think that it wasn't very good, because when the day rolled over and he moved into D, he spent like 37k or something, or maybe like 30k moving into back into C.
Yep. No, it's not ideal for him. He really needed that money. Mr. Cubes, first player into an off-world market. As we said before, off-world market's pretty good right now. Mr. Cubes is making oxygen, so it is just about a sustainable launch. It would be if he were launching it, though. He needs to launch it. There we go.
Just a little thing, just actually launching something.
If you spend 70,000 or so on a building, probably want to be using it. Bob gets his optimization center blown up.
It's otherwise a monument to a rocket.
Yeah, it's very big and very impressive, but not actually very productive. Konto, though, has a pretty big lead now over Mr. Cubes, I think, because Mr. Cubes built that off-world, which might pay off for him in the longer term, but it's a pretty close race between the two of them, actually. Konto and Mr. Cubes, not particularly clear who has the advantage here.
Cubes does have some stock in the Konto, so it's definitely not decided yet, quite yet.
Oh, and look at
Relic is moving into an off-world, though.
Look at the chem price, and Bob Rooney is just hacking the life out of chems right now. And while he's doing that, Ikbenine Konto is putting his 4th pip of optimization into carbon, which he's only producing 2 of a second, or actually 4 of a second, which makes it a little bit better. But that's a lot of money that Konto is spending. Mr. Cubes getting his off-world blown up. Really needed to do a better job protecting that, although Goon's now at $110,000, and Mr. Cubes really lacking any money and lacking much in the way of income as well. There's a power hack as well from Mr. Cubes, and another power hack too. So he's going to be trying to make a power play.
Hmm, it seems to be working out alright. Konto is the only one who's running a surplus of power, but I I'm not sure if Cubes should not be selling it. I think he should start selling it because
He definitely should now. I mean, he wants to maximize the amount that he's making from this power, but yeah, he absolutely needs to be selling it. Meanwhile, Bob Rooney is very nearly in shift buy territory of Relic, and I imagine that that is his plan. Getting just a lot of money from this from these chems. And yeah, there's the shift buy.
He probably forgot to just press the shift button. Got that stock. That what seems to what he was planning to do.
So Bob now has a pretty big head start in terms of gathering cash over whoever wins this battle between Konto and Mr. Cubes, and it looks like it's going to be Konto. Mr. Cubes having to basically build 2 off-worlds.
Mr. Cubes just now remembered to start selling down power, and that's a big problem because it gave time Relic to move into all sorts of power.
Well, and not only that, but the power boost is actually benefiting Konto as well, because he's actually making bigger power surplus than Mr. Cubes is. So yeah, that was a major mistake.
Bob Rooney also moved into power, and he is the one with the superconductor.
Oh, he's got. Oh my goodness me, he's getting 3,000 a second.
That's
on power.
Possibly the reason why.
Gets it frozen out eventually.
Why he managed to get so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly feel like Mr. Cubes kind of threw this game. Or at least.
Maybe. I mean, it was tough for him, and the reason it was tough for him was because he didn't have that, like, carbon scrubbing was just so big this game, and I feel that single patent is the reason that Bob looks like he's going to win, as Konto now very, very close indeed to finishing the buy on Mr. Cubes. But that carbon, like, look at carbon, right? It's $350 right now, and that's the real price of carbon. Because Konto didn't have any, he needed it to upgrade. Chems were insane, electronics were insane. All of the reasons that you would buy carbon were there. And Bob being the first really to recognize that, and I think that just that one patent is the reason he's won this game.
Well, you're saying just one patent, but nobody took slam drilling. Oh wait, Relic took slam
Relic
drilling.
took slam drilling, yeah.
Yeah. And never moved into carbon. Yeah, I see it.
But I think just any, like, all of these patents, like if you were to take in this game, if you were to take carbon scrubbing or all of the other patents that have been taken, which would you take? I would take carbon scrubbing.
Well, after which I would take slant drilling, basically.
Yeah, probably. But even so, like, it's just a huge benefit in this game. Having said that, I might have been a little bit premature in calling this game, because Bob Rooney is actually stalling out a little bit here. He's still making chems, and really needs to be, and he's still hacking chems, and really needs to be doing a bit more with those stockpiles. And Konto now actually has a considerable amount of carbon production, so he's going to be making money from that carbon that he has. He's got 110,000 worth of carbon right now, and he's going to be quite aggressive with that. The real advantage that Bob Rooney has, he has a much better subsidiary right now. He has nearly 3,000 a second coming in from Relic, from those 2 off-worlds, from the food and the glass and all of that, and the water, but mainly the off-worlds, honestly. It is not necessarily a foregone conclusion that he's going to win this game, particularly now as Mr. Cubes is bringing 1,500 a second in for Konto.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Cubes has moved into an off-world, so that delayed the payback for Konto a little bit.
Ah, yeah, that's true. And this carbon price is dying a little bit as well now, which isn't going to help him out too much. Electronics are still very profitable, but Konto's income stream dying just a little bit. No off-world that he has, at least. He's got one via Mr. Cubes. I've got 2, in fact, via Mr. Cubes. There's the Pleasure Dome, Bob Rooney blowing up Konto's Pleasure Dome. Nobody picked up virtual reality this game, which, with two expansive players, seems like a little bit of an oversight.
Yeah, no one really thought of it early, I guess, and then later on nobody really wanted to move into a into a paid lab just for getting VR. Even though I think it probably would be worth it, given how long this game has been going on.
So Bob going back into electronics again. They're going to be incredibly profitable. 400 a tile from those electronics. Konto's electronics are actually pretty good as well, but not quite as good because again of that carbon scrubbing. But I think Bob probably is going to take this one. He needs another 500,000 or so. Konto needs another 750,000 or so, which, given the difference in subsidiary income, given the fact that the relative price of carbon is going down, or relative to what it was, the price of carbon is low, even though it's over $200 still. And Bob, I think, probably has enough to get himself over the line.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the dynamite landing on Mystic Cubes, like his offer just got delayed too much, and Relic has turned out to be a much better subsidiary.
Yep, really, really, really good. Mr. Cube's just about coming online now with those 2 off-worlds, but even so, Relic with the advantage in terms of the amount of money that he's putting out. Relic, by the way, in chat, saying that he was a few seconds too late with carbon scrubbing. That's unfortunate. Didn't spot that at the time. But I think it has
Hard
been...
to be the scientist.
Yeah, it is. Has been the reason, I think, though, that... Why is... Are all Mr. Cube's buildings actually off? Or are they... Oh, because they're all losing a bunch of money, I see. Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
AI is being AI.
Yep. So Bob Rooney at 90% now, and I think it is pretty much a done deal at this point. He's going to take this game number 4. It will be his second win of the tournament. He won the first round game of Group A, and he does finish this one off. GG to Bob Rooney, who got himself that scientist spot, got himself, crucially, the carbon scrubbing, and really never looked back from that point. It's very good chem production, very good electronics production. If we look at the biggest money maker for Bob Rooney, yep, over $1 million in chems. And he bought 350,000. Some of that will have been for advanced buildings, but some of it, I think, as well, will be from hacks. So let's call it $750,000 that he made in profit from chems. Really impressive. Konto actually made over $1 million from carbon as well, but the amount that he had to buy to do that was huge, 800,000.
He basically made 280k on carbon only.
Oh, something.
Which is interestingly more than Relic and Mr. Cube's got in their most profitable resource.
Something that Konto pointed out in chat. Yeah. He apparently destroyed his own subs off-world, which I totally missed. Yeah, that's pretty painful if you do that.
Oh, I didn't really look who hit who, but
yeah, I didn't
assumed
either.
It was the opponent, but yeah, that didn't help.
It's going to be pretty painful if you do that. But well played, Bob Rooney. I think it would have been fairly close, I think, had Konto not done that. But even so, Bob Rooney taking this game number 4. Let's put up the final lobby that we're going to be doing today, and also let's have a look at the other games. Are you taking a step away for a second?
Yeah, I'm going to use the fact that Group A hasn't finished and take a quick break for a couple of minutes.
Okay, see you in a sec. We have the results come in. Peasant has actually won Group A, so that's his second win of the tournament. There's a bunch of players on 2 right now. Von Eagle as well winning Group B, so he takes that one. He's also on 2. And interestingly, so it's worked out very nicely in terms of the final group of games, because we actually have 4 players on 2. So those 4 players, Poor Sheep, Bob Rooney, Von Eagle and Peasant, those 4 players will play in the Group A game to decide the winner of the tournament on Blues' channel. Group B will be the teams that the players that have 1 win apiece. So 2D back, Mr. Cubes, Adderfield and Rahi all have 1 win apiece, and this channel will see the Group C game, which is the players who don't have any wins to their name just yet to get off the mark. They are Ich Bin Ein Konto, Clamercho, Relic and Ian Arcad. So that's going to be the order of play for the final round. We have 3 of our players in here already. Good work, everyone. Getting themselves in the group they need to be in double quick time. Put the seed into the... Put the new seed in. There we go. Yeah, it's good to have a tournament again. We've not had a tournament for a few weeks since the launch of Jupiter's Forge, the official one. Good to get back into the swing of casuals tournaments and regulars tournaments and all of that. As I said, the first time that we've had a tournament spanning across a bunch of different maps. Round 1 was Series, round 2 was IO, round 3 and 4 both Mars, and round 5 is also Mars as well.
And I'm back.
Welcome back.
Looks like we're still waiting on...
Yeah, waiting on Clamercho, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're watching and you haven't checked out the Off-World Trading Company Discord just yet, then please do. It's definitely the #1 resource to go to for everything to do with Off-World Trading Company, including the tournaments that we run here. Alright, that is everyone. Alright, let's go.
Alright.
This would be one of the quicker tournaments we've... oh, a new splash art. Not seen this before. Pretty sweet. Alright, game number 5 of the Off-World Trading Company casual tournament for June 2017. I'm Terra Incognita. Alongside me for this one, Yarand, we have the final game on Mars. Relic, Ian Arcad, Clamercio and Ich bin ein Konto are going to be contesting it. And Yarand, what do you make of this map?
I'm not sure what to make of this map.
Well, we have no scavengers.
There's kind of a scientist, I think, in the West. Only 2 tiles, but still I would consider it. Aluminium is kind of a pain, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this scientist. I mean, I think it's definitely not a robot map. And yeah, again, I think expansive is totally fine.
Oh,
and we're gonna see 3 expansives. We're gonna see 4 expansives. Okay, so no one taking the plunge. I mean, it doesn't particularly surprise me because robots just don't seem very good. The other option was scientist, and there was really only the one scientist spot. So, I mean, no one's gonna go elite. So, I kind of feel like this is probably to be expected. 4 expansive players. We're gonna see exactly who's gonna have the advantage. Who paid? Ian paid for his probably too much for his found 18,000, which yeah.
You know, for a game with 4 expansives, I'd say only one of them has a good found.
Yeah, I mean,
the other 3 kind of got into each other's way, intentionally or unintentionally.
Does it matter that? It probably does matter that much because there's not a whole lot of iron around, and that is the issue for a lot of our players. Konto really only has the medium to work with. Does have that adjacent high, and he's just purchased a nuke as well. Yeah, he's just nuked it straight out. So Ian is going to be struggling a little bit with that low iron now as well. Clamercio in the north has no iron at all. So
they have a beautiful option to... And it happened, yes. So Relic was not in time to upgrade because of his super aggressive, far too aggressive move into steel.
Yeah,
without aluminium or iron.
So he doesn't
so
get...
he
yeah.
This is
Oh
hilarious. So he gets the best found by far.
Doesn't take the iron.
And he ends up in the worst position possible.
I mean, it's probably not a total disaster for him in terms of later on in the game. I mean, yeah, he can't upgrade, which is a disaster. But in terms of later on in the game, it's probably not so bad, because there is a patch of pretty good iron in the far southwest of the map that Relic can get to quite easily. So he's probably okay in terms of the amount of iron that he can get in the future. But right now, he is just struggling so much to get to this last, what, $1,000 or so to be able to upgrade. But right now, he's not getting that money. I don't know what he'd do here.
Amazingly bad state for every player.
It really is. So let's take a little bit of stock then. So Ian very wisely has gooned his aluminium tile, which is really the only aluminium anywhere near him that's at least reasonable. Clemercho has seemingly a fairly secure production of iron now. So, and he's just sold it down as well, which should mean that Relic is going to be able to upgrade as well. So, Relic has somehow managed to lose a bunch of money. I'm not exactly sure how, but even so. So Clemercho first to 3, and it seems to me, and he's into chems as well, and chems are decent. It seems to me,
They're pretty good.
like, and it's a chem colony too. It seems to me like Clemercho is in a strong position.
Yeah, I urge the other players to nuke down his iron that he stole from Relic, because the one bad thing about this spot, I keep saying that it's the best spot, but both tiles are medium, so
Yeah,
2 nukes and goodbye to your iron.
very easy to nuke indeed. And Relic did get a claim, and very sensibly decides to take the high iron in the far south. So he's going to finally have a source of his own iron, and he has finally managed to get to HQ level 2 as well. So it took a while, it took until nearly the end of Sol 2, but he did manage to get there. He is considerably behind, but again he does have that iron in the south. He's going to get carbon in as well, which I think is going to be quite good for him because of the chem production that's happening elsewhere on the map.
Relic is the only player who's trying to have a standard start, so to say, more or less. He goes for iron, goes for some steel, gets a couple basic resources, because everyone else is kind of reminding me of last game when everyone was producing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Clemercho's production does make a little bit of sense. The chems are running out of life at this point, but they're still okay. The food is still pretty good.
I do like his production quite a lot. It's that he's not really producing a lot of upgrade resources. That is slightly strange. But the fact that the other players are not producing, were not producing upgrade resources at all is, I could say, the more interesting approach.
So we're going to see some solar panels as well from Clemercho, and I imagine that there's, I mean that was always going to happen. 3 solar panels seems a little bit of an overcommitment. It's going into a patent lab as well, though. And I think the story
Big
of
props.
Sorry,
to Konto, who is hoarding fuel, because 2 players were making cams, and he went into fuel quite quickly. And he has definitely caught on to the fact that he can make quite a bit of money off of that.
Yep, that's certainly true. Ian now also in fuel, so Konzo's going to have to do something about that. And yeah, he does in fact sell down and then upgrade to HQ level 3. But yeah, Clemercho, even with that freeze on the solar panels, which is painful, but he does have a considerable lead right now, is going into patents as well. So, what is he going for? Superconductor first of all, which is not particularly surprising. Ian also going into a patent lab. This Pleasure Dome, by the way, is going to be really, really good for somebody. In the long term, it's not particularly good right now because the price of power is so high, but in the longer term, going to be quite good.
Yeah, Ian is basically saying, I'm going to be in DDETs any day now.
Yeah, he's got no real way to get out of it. He's burning a lot of power and not getting any. So we'll see what he's able to do. No geos on this map at all, which is an interesting thing when you have 4 expansive players.
So, Clemercho's solar panels are about to unfreeze. And guess what's going to happen after they do?
Well, it's going to be shut down again, I imagine.
I imagine there's going to be a dust storm.
Well, there's going to be but the dust storm's fine. Like, if he's got superconductor, which he does, then even through a dust storm, it's going to be really good. Like, he's getting 2.4 a second, which isn't a huge amount, but when the 3rd one comes online, he's going to be getting a lot more. As long as it's daytime, which it's not daytime right now. But when it gets to be daytime again, he's going to be...
Meanwhile,
Konto has wind
Konto,
turbines. Yeah.
exactly. So I feel like Clemercio unfortunately got shut down on his power, even though he has set up a very powerful.
Yeah, and everyone, we just had the day take over. We had the day take over, and everyone not named Ich bin ein Konto just took a very large debt tick. Particularly Ian, who now has D+4 next to his name, which is never what you want to see. Nearly $200,000 worth of debt. Let's get to the HQ4 upgrade, but needs to do something about that debt fairly soon. Ich bin ein Konto, meanwhile, is making power money right now. And now that, I mean, Clemercio's in D levels of debt as well, or D and then some. Did manage to catch an EMP though.
And unfortunately handed it back.
Threw it straight back, and yeah, is going to get that shut down. So Clemercio in a very difficult position, and maybe just on power. This game might be falling into the hands of Ich bin ein Konto.
I'd say on power and on black markets, definitely.
Yeah,
That's just very important to point out how well Clemercio's power had been handled by his opponents.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean the 3 solar panels in a triangle doesn't need an awful lot of handling. It really needed to be in a line, and the fact that they weren't sort of prepped, as it were, they were something else before they were solar panels.
You know, I would argue that since there are EMPs in the markets, it doesn't really matter quite as much.
Well, there are EMPs and power surges, so like there are only so many EMPs to go around. If there are power surges as well that you can hit with maximum efficiency, then I think it's a lot easier for people to hit you. I mean, I take your point that yeah, it doesn't matter that much, but even so, like even Konto caught an EMP from, like, because he had his power in a line because it was targeted on the middle. So I mean, obviously you shouldn't target it on the middle in that case, but even so, it's some amount of defense, even with EMPs. So power is the story of a couple of minutes ago in this game. It's not really relevant anymore. Ian, unfortunately, not able to get out of the debt that he's in. He's going to take another very large debt tick. Konto
You know what?
Oh, sorry, go on.
Konto got ahead, but I'm not really seeing it anymore. Like, that power play was really important. That power died off, sure. But
Yeah.
what does he have now?
Well, power's now completely dead, and yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot. He doesn't have enough water coming in, which is pretty important. He is on ice, of course, so he's going to get a lot of water eventually if he needs to. But life support isn't going to last forever. He's got, I mean, the life support money is really good, but it is also going to mean that whoever's making water, and that's mainly Ian, is going to get a whole bunch of money. Ian, though, unfortunately took another enormous debt tick and is now basically knocked out of this game. Is going to be shift by fodder, I think, for somebody very soon.
He's going to keep sitting on a large stockpile of money, but I think he just repaid a lot of that, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
Because his
Like,
stock price is
more than 50,000.
skyrocketing.
Yeah, more than 50,000. But he's not really even close to getting out of D levels of debt right now. Cook the books are available, so maybe that's okay for him.
Between cook the books and keeping repaying the debt, I actually think he might have a very, very, very slim chance of getting back into this game.
Yeah, maybe. You might well be right. He's got a bunch of water as well, and a bunch of life support, so that's something that's sustainable for him. Does need to cook the books though. I don't think he's cooked the books at all yet. Yeah, Clemercio is the only person who's cooked the books so far.
In fact, you know what? If he can spend a lot of money repaying his debt and sell his stock, that might mean something. Although I feel like by the time he's going to be out of debt, then the selling stock might not be the best idea.
Yeah, you might well be right. And there is enough time before the end of the day to really make a dent into that debt. And yeah, he's only in D now. He's not even in D plus anything. It's D plus 0. And very soon he's going to be out of that D level of debt. And does have the income.
Look at Konto. Konto is buying into Clemercio, and he's making quite a bit of money still with life support. but fortunately, not producing a steal
Yeah.
kind of means you can't upgrade. And even if you do get a blind Clemercio, what are you going to do against the HQ level 5 relic?
Yeah, and he's got a pattern lab that's sitting doing nothing right now as well, and he did pick up teleportation, and teleportation again, I mean, we said this with Konto last time when he got teleportation, very marginal value, really not very good here, isn't getting a lot of benefit.
I wanted to argue with you somewhat last game when you said that, but in this case, there's absolutely no arguments.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, there was some value last game. There was, it gave him a little bit more flexibility. But yeah, this game, absolutely not. Like, there's not really anything that he can do with that teleportation. Only has the solar condenser that's even using it, that's even a remote claim. So, and again, has that pattern lab doing nothing. Isn't really even close to the buy just yet on Clemercio. And meanwhile, Relic has been HQ5 for a little while now. Is buying all of his own stock. Ian is close to, I mean, he's back in the game, quite honestly. You are absolutely right. He has dragged himself, kicking and screaming, back into this game. With that large amount of income that he's had since he got into that enormous amount of debt. And now he has a cash lead. And all of his own stock. Might be in quite a good position.
I'm not entirely sure why he managed to bring it back, because he only had like a lot of production, but
well, it was all life support production, but crucially he had the water to support it, and that seemed to be
part.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing, because like oxygen was high, fuel was high, food was high, but also like water was, you know, getting up as well, and nobody else could sustain that level of production, but Ian could. He just made a lot of money from that. Got himself out of that debt. Network
That should
virus
be
auction.
the reason why Relic is also quite so far ahead. He also has quite a bit of water. And honestly, we weren't looking much at him at the time, but he managed to get to HQ level 5 first. He's now optimizing, which is actually very difficult to judge in these expansive games, because sure, there's a lot of pressure on prices, but at the same time there's also a lot of production.
Yeah, that's true. It's and yeah, not so much pressure, or not so many resources required in terms of steel for the expansive players as well. So that eats into the sort of the global production, as it were. So yeah, I would expect this to be a low price environment by the end of the game. But I think honestly, some of our players have not been all that efficient in terms of their claims and their production this game. And I think you see that in, for example, Konto being HQ level 3 and having bought into Clemercio and not really able to make enough money to get the job done. Clemercio now HQ level 5 and might be in a position to start responding to Konto very, very soon.
Yeah, Konto has made a commitment to try to finish the game, to finish the buy rather on Clemercio. And unfortunately, it was not meant to be, so he is now behind. He has a lot of money committed to this stock play. He probably needs to consider selling out of Clemercio.
Yeah, I think absolutely he does. He just upgraded to HQ4, which took all of his money.
Which also indicates that he cannot keep trying to get that play.
Interesting decision by Clemercio, though. I think I might have been tempted to be aggressive against Konto at this point. Instead, decides that he's going to be the first to take the plunge on an off-world market, which honestly is going to be very, very difficult for him to defend. Dynamite's still at 3k, goons are at 30k. He doesn't have one bought. It's going to be fodder for an awful lot of black market, particularly given that it's a big colony.
Yeah, I am not a fan of that at all. He's just basically, he has half of his stock bought by another player. He's in D-debt. He has less than 20k per stock. He is building an off-world market. This is basically screaming, kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me now.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a lot of money to commit to something, and the off-world market is, in terms of the expected revenue from it, is okay, but yeah, just in terms of the perception of you from other players, you're just going to be so valuable to whoever can pick you up, and maybe maybe even Konto can get the job done eventually. He's been huffing and puffing for a long time at HQ3 and now HQ4.
If Konto gets that buy, I'm going to call the other players out for making a terrible mistake.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, if I were either Ian or Relic, I would be very, very tempted to pick up that empty stock in Konto right now. Because it's just very, very tempting. Clemercho's stock price, again, just plunging. Does have a lot of money, but really needs to deal with this debt situation, because honestly, at any point, Ian and Relic could take him out. And Konto is not far away either.
Ian has the money and he should do it.
I don't know. I mean, I think I'd probably go into Konto instead. I think that's how you get an advantage in this game. Konto has obviously overcommitted with what he's doing.
You have an option to get half an offer now.
Yeah, maybe, but you're also giving... Yeah, I mean, maybe it's okay to do that. But I said, like, Konto's just going to become an enormously valuable proposition for anyone. And I think, like, at least do something. And Konto needs to finish this buy, by the way, which he eventually does.
Oh, I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they don't buy Clemercho...
You see, and now
yes,
Relic goes into Konto,
yes.
when he's at $50! He was at $30!
There's just no reason not to commit your money to the stock. Like,
Yeah.
even if you go for Konto, which I think was less good, but still that's better than going for Konto now.
And Relic is probably going to have to sell out of Konto as well, because he's got bigger problems in the form of Ian, who's decided to buy into him. Relic does have the advantage, but only if he sells out of Konto, which he really needs to do. Ian, by the way, has an off-world of his own now being built, just next to his base.
Yeah.
Also has thinking machines to protect it, crucially.
It is extremely important, but with how cheap the black market is at the moment, I feel like it's still possible to poke him a little bit.
So Relic
Dynamite.
has spotted the fact that what he needed to do was sell out of Konto. Is doing that now. So
Which unfortunately is very good for Konto, because that means that out of nowhere, out of being horribly behind after getting back into the game, he has the time now to get ahead of people.
And his production is not terrible right now. He's HQ5, he's got electronics being optimized. He's got food coming down, which is very profitable, although there's a random surplus. But he's certainly making money, and might be in a position to pull himself back into this game. Relic's off-world gets blown up. Relic still does have a lead over Ian. It's quite a considerable one, assuming that he sells that last pip of stock out of Konto. Maybe he thinks he doesn't need to. Maybe he's right. But even so, might be an unnecessary risk.
No, actually don't mind that. I mean, Konto's stock is most likely going to keep rising, so he might make a couple extra thousand from that if he intends to sell out anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Basically all of Relic's money at the moment, though, is coming from glass. I don't know whether you've noticed these glass kilns. He's got 5 of them. They are $400 a tile right now, per second.
Oh lord.
Very, very profitable indeed, because silicon is low, oxygen is kind of high, but doesn't matter because glass has been high for a long time, and he's got it optimized. So, very good work from Relic, and he's going to be able, I think, very soon, and maybe, yeah, he was right, he didn't need to sell out of Konto. He's got the income to be able to do this quite comfortably, and to be able to buy Ian basically whenever he wants to.
Frankly, you have to question if he had the ability to keep another stock in Konto. But
yeah, maybe. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, yeah, like I certainly wouldn't have made that decision. That's someone braver than I would have done that. But Relic, though, getting that buy on Ian, getting the... Does he have an advantage? I think he has an advantage. I think Ian's going to be a better sub than Clemercho. Maybe not. 2 off-worlds, though.
Clemercho has 2 off-worlds, yeah. But I have to say, And Konto has, well, okay, he has invested a lot of money in his own stock, but
Yeah.
I'm not super impressed with just how much money he had made in the meantime.
And Konto is trying to rinse everything he possibly can out of the electronics market right now. It's not all that good for him. It's certainly not as good as Relic's glass. But Konto does have quite a big lead. Well, not quite a big lead, but certainly a 100k lead.
You know what? Ian is already making more money than Camacho.
Yep, he is. Well, Clemercio committed to the... Well, Clemercio's sub committed to that second off-world, and I think that's why his profits are being a little bit delayed. And yeah, Ian now also building a second off-world, Ian's sub building a second off-world. So that'll go down just a little bit, and Clemercio, yeah, with that launch. So I don't know, it's close in terms of subs, but in terms of overall income, I don't know. I think it's close between the two of them. I think it's fairly close.
Relic has optimizations. Konto has fewer optimizations. He has a nice amount, but
he has some.
Not as much as Relic.
And that might be some might be enough. I don't know. And Konto again does have it's a little bit of it's like what, 50k at this point. How much? Let's do the actual math on this. So Relic needs 800,000. Konto needs 650,000. So, well, 700,000 now. So about 100,000 lead that Konto has. It's a question of whether Relic's optimizations is going to be enough to overhaul that, and Relic's glass income is now drying up, and crucially Konto's electronics income is not. It's really close, actually.
It's interesting that Relic is not making food.
Yeah, it is interesting. He needs to be making food.
Ooh, that's a fairly obvious transition.
Yeah, into like that, just buy a bunch of water and put food down in place of the water. The optimization center right now not doing anything. In fact, both optimization centers not doing anything. What are all of these? Oh, he's gone out of glass altogether and gone into a bunch of reactors, and reactors are okay. He's got some optimizations there. They're not that good.
They are the launch resource, but seeing as neither player has offers in only their subs, I don't know if I would care quite so much about that.
Yep.
I'm really not sure why he's skipping food. He's optimizing food right now, but he's not producing it. Well, now he's
there we go.
Food.
There we go. Into 3 greenhouse farms. Going to be really nice for him. Konto, by the way, deciding to blow up his opponent's subsidiary this time, which is an improvement on last game when he blew up his own subsidiaries off-world.
Learning from mistakes, definitely.
Here, this is a really, really close finish. Look how close this is. Konto needs 300,000, Relic needs 350,000. Relic maybe has a small income advantage, but it is close.
I'd like to point out that Ian's AI is being better than Camacho's AI, I think.
That is true.
And unfortunately, that is a factor in the game, that some AI is kind of...
might be what wins Relic the game. Relic does get his production shut down, though. That's a lot of production he just got shut down. And yeah, sees also Relic just buying into a whole bunch of water, sees that Konto does not have any water resources next to him worth mentioning, and so basically turning off those farms, turning off those reactors. Maybe that's enough for Relic. Needs only 100 more thousand. Konto needs 200,000.
A big shout out to him for doing that, because he also spotted that neither AI is making water now. I'm not sure he's making the water, but it was nighttime, so those.
So Relic sold everything down, has the red button, and takes this game number 4. That's his first and only win of this tournament. Konto has come very close to winning a couple of these games that we've seen, but just not quite able to get the job done. And Relic instead winning this one. Very, very close finish. Konto was, what, 150,000 or so short. And a really nice comeback from Konto, having come back from a point where he was HQ3 and everyone else was HQ5. He got a bunch of power money, he invested it in Clemercio, and Clemercio didn't really punish him for it, even though he could have. And Konto getting himself back into this game, facing off against Relic at the end, and taking a very narrow defeat. Relic winning this one.
It was definitely a very strange game, and there were some very strange comebacks, I guess. But Konto definitely showed a very, very interesting way to get back into the game.
And something I want to point out is that in a game with 4 expansives, the winner did not build a Pleasure Dome. Kind of interesting.
Interestingly, Pleasure Dome didn't make quite as much money for some reason. I guess not enough good adjacency. No, there was quite a lot of good adjacency. Just a lot of Pleasure Domes.
Yeah, and Clemercio...
And no VR.
Clemercio went into VR quite early, and sort of overcommitted to that. That was when he was being eaten up by Konto, and wasn't paying off his debt. Instead, he was going into VR. So only he got VR. But yeah, Ian made nearly $250,000. That's a lot of money from a Pleasure Dome, or from 2 Pleasure Domes, I guess.
3 Pleasure Domes at one point.
3 at one point.
Okay. Actually. Well, no, he only had 2 at the end. Still.
But yeah, the that was a really interesting one. And yeah, I mean the optimizations, like I like this again. These profiles of optimizations, I'm a big fan of, both from Konto and from Relic. And I think particularly the production buildings, the chem refineries, the glass kilns, the electronics factories, benefit a huge amount from these optimizations, because you're not only getting more output, but you're getting more efficient output. And that's the key thing. Like, you're getting more both in volume and in efficiency, the same inputs for more outputs, which does make a bigger difference, particularly when the prices are higher, and you can see the chem price, the glass price, the electronics price, all pretty consistently high across this game. And I think that just those extra optimizations in those things might have made enough of a difference for Relic.
I think one of the more surprising aspects of this particular game was how underused the black market was. Yeah,
I was gonna mention that. I just flicked onto that screen because the Clemercio, who was the AI for most of the game, was the most active on the black market with 13, and half of those were Cook the Books. So yeah, that's not very much black market.
If you just look at the price at the end, you have EMP at 50k, which is alright. That's about that's a decent enough limit to call EMPs. But Power Surge only at 30k, Dynamite only at 10k, Nuke only at 10k.
Pirates at not 4.5. Yeah, well, it is true. That is something that often does separate really good players from players that are merely quite good. And I feel
like part of that was the strange openings that we had.
That's also true.
Yeah, had a hard time figuring out what to do and how to do, and when and how to spend money on the black market.
Yeah, Relic obviously hadn't been watching Zorbaz against 2D back, because he went into those triple steal and was stuck there for a long time, having done that. Not quite as long as either Zorbaz or 2D back, but still quite a while. Alright, well that's our tournament. What happened in the other game? Poor Sheep won the Group A game, so Poor Sheep is the tournament winner. Coming out of nowhere and taking that one. So well played to Poor Sheep. Group B, Adderfield winning that game against Rahi, Mr. Cubes and Tudback. And obviously Relic taking this one as well. So Relic is 9th, Adderfield is 5th, and the tournament winner is Poor Sheep. So there we go. Thank you, a big thank you to you, Yaron, for casting with me. It's been a real pleasure.
No problem at all. Thank you for letting me in.
Cool. No problem at all. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll have the VODs up on Twitch and then YouTube probably over the course of the next couple of days. If you haven't been to our Discord, do go to our Discord. The link is on the Offworld front page, or the the landing screen, as it were. So check that out, and yeah, sign up for future tournaments. I think there's probably another coming within the next couple of weeks. So keep your eyes peeled, and sign up and watch and interact however you want to with that. But from me, and also from Yarand, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.